9TT. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of May. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Very, very good afternoon to you. It's 3 p.m. and welcome to the Martin Daubney Show here on GB News, broadcasting for you live across the UK. We've got all the very latest news, debate and analysis all the way through until 6 p.m. And here's what's coming up on today's show. The former head of the Royal Navy has turned his guns on Keir Starmer. He blasted Lord Nelson will be spinning in his grave at the PM's strategically inept failure to deploy Royal Navy warships to the Mediterranean to protect Cyprus. And that's as GB News understands that HMS Dragon will not reach the RAF base in Cyprus for another 2 weeks. Is our rudderless government holed below the water?
Not happy with the UK either. This is not Winston Churchill that we're dealing with.
Donald Trump has ruled Keir Starmer is no Churchill after our PM's disappointing decision to stop Trump using British air bases. In Trump's darkest hour, did Keir Starmer betray him and make the US-UK special relationship a tragic casualty of the Iran war? And a controversial London mosque has held a candlelit vigil to mark its deep sorrow and heartbreak towards Iran's deceased Ayatollah, with similar events taking place in Manchester, Birmingham and Nottingham. Is it high time to close radical mosques and jail or deport any Islamists poisoning Britain?
You've been ringing the front door, have you?
I rang the bell.
Yeah.
Building, yeah.
Okay, can I ask why?
Because I wanted to speak to someone, a staff member or something.
Okay, it's a bank holiday at the moment, so...
That's what they told me.
Yeah.
They told me to come some other day.
Okay.
Astonishing scenes as the ongoing inquiry into the systemic failings that allowed Valdo Callaghan to murder 3 in Nottingham continues. Today we heard how the psychopath demanded to be arrested 2 years before he went on his killing spree. Will anybody ever be held to account? I'll talk to Dr. Sanjoy Kumar, the father of deceased Gracie. What would Winston Churchill think of our country today? What would Lord Nelson think of our shameful navy? Nowhere to be seen. In the Mediterranean, everybody knew this war was coming. The USA managed to deploy the world's biggest 2 aircraft carriers 6, 7, 8 weeks before the strike. The clues were always there. Why then still is HMS Dragon docked in Portsmouth? We're exposed, impotent, unable to defend sovereign territory in Cyprus. Another U-turn today as RAF bases in Britain will be allowed to continue the air assaults on Iran. When the darkest hour came for Donald Trump and the special relationship, did we simply hide in the corner, cower in our own bunker, illiterate to world events, impotent to what's going on around us? Get in touch, gbnews.com/your say is the way to do so. We can scan the QR code on your screens now. But let's get stuck into your headlines, and here's Tatiana Sanchez.
Martin, thank you very much. The top stories. The US Defense Secretary says a US submarine sank an Iranian warship in the Indian Ocean with a torpedo. Pete Hegseth didn't name the ship, but earlier the Sri Lankan Navy said around 140 people were missing after an Iranian ship, the Iris Denna, went down off the coast of Gul. Mr. Hegseth also said America is winning without mercy, adding the US will have control of Iran's skies in under a week. Well, his comments come as the war in the Middle East is now in its 5th day. The Israeli military says it's launched a broad wave of strikes in both Lebanon and Iran, focusing on targeting Hezbollah infrastructure in Beirut and the Iranian terror regime in Tehran. Meanwhile, Sir Keir Starmer says letting the US use UK bases and British jets shooting down drones in the Middle East is the special relationship in action, while hanging on to President Trump's latest words is not.
American planes are operating out of British bases. That is the special relationship in action. British jets are shooting down drones and missiles to protect American lives in the Middle East on our joint bases. That is the special relationship in action. Sharing intelligence every day to keep our people safe. That is the special relationship in action. Hanging on to President Trump's latest words is not the special relationship in action.
Reform UK leader Nigel Farage reacted to Donald Trump's comments about the Prime Minister.
He's quite right to say he's no Churchill. There's a complete breakdown now in relationships between our government and the American administration. And, you know, Donald Trump does forgive people, but not quickly. And I suspect this breach is going to be unmendable.
US bombers are set to strike Iran from British bases soon, according to officials, with bombers expected to arrive at RAF Fairford. The officials also said Iran will run out of ballistic missiles in the coming days if they continue to fire at the current rates. Throughout the briefing, Western officials were keen to stress that we should not rule out anything regarding possible action by US allies. Meanwhile, a government charter flight will be available this evening for British nationals wanting to leave Oman. The flight will depart the country's capital, Muscat, at 7 o'clock and is available for British nationals, their partners and children under 18 with a valid travel document. The Prime Minister confirmed that more than 1,000 British nationals returned from the UAE yesterday, with 8 flights due to land back home today. More charter flights are also expected in the coming days. And 3 men have been arrested on suspicion of spying for China. The Metropolitan Police said the suspects, aged 39, 43 and 68, were arrested by counter-terrorism officers in London and Wales after being accused of assisting a foreign intelligence service. All 3 men remain in custody and searches have been carried out at the addresses where they were arrested, the force added. Inquiries remain ongoing. Those are the latest GB News headlines. For now, more news from me in half an hour.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB Digital Radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
And breaking news this afternoon, the US bombers are now set to land at British bases after all, any day now to join attacks on Iran, But our British Navy warship HMS Dragon will not reach our Cyprus military base now for a full 2 weeks, still being held there in Portsmouth. So much for rural Britannia, more like full Britannia. The Portsmouth base Type 45 won't set sail now until next week, and then it will take another week at least for it to arrive on station. Now, this comes after the humiliation that the French and even the military minnow Greece has sent support to shame our Royal Navy into action. And meanwhile, after Donald Trump called Keir Starmer no Churchill, the Prime Minister accused the US President of lacking a viable, thought-through plan.
The American planes are operating out of British bases. That is the special relationship in action. British jets are shooting down drones and missiles to protect American lives in the Middle East on our joint bases. That is the special relationship in action. Sharing intelligence every day to keep our people safe. That is the special relationship in action. Hanging on to President Trump's latest words is not the special relationship in action.
Well, as they throw mud pies in Parliament, there's a war going on right there, and Britain seems to be sitting this one out, or at least sitting on its hands for way too long. I'm now joined by GBNews' national reporter, Charlie Peters. Charlie Peters, a lot of people's just saying Lord Nelson would be spinning in his grave, Winston Churchill would be weeping at the ineptitude of the Prime Minister today, of the British military forces. We're outnumbered, outmanoeuvred, nowhere to be seen.
Martin, just imagine the frustration of those Royal Navy sailors who will be desperate to be getting into this scrap, desperate, frankly, to defend their colleagues and allies in the Eastern Mediterranean, especially those at RAF at Crotiri on Cyprus. Those colleagues who, frankly, desperately need them instead of having to rely on American, French, Greek and also Israeli support to deter and destroy the Lebanese Hezbollah drone attacks that are coming from Lebanon, but also the threat of ballistic missiles from Iran. You know, last year, Martin, I was on HMS Duncan, one of those two Type 45 destroyers that could have been set. I met with many of the sailors. They had just returned from a deployment to the Eastern Mediterranean. They were expected to go forward and replace another destroyer that was in the Red Sea, where they would be defending commercial shipping against missiles and drones being fired by the Houthi terrorists. They told me that they were so frustrated that they had not been allowed to go forward and be a part of that operation. I can only imagine how they feel today, knowing that they're being kept back, stuck in Portsmouth due to a maintenance frustration, because the capabilities on those ships are tremendous. I was taken around much of that destroyer without our cameras to protect the security of some of the assets inside, but the commanding officer did tell us, and this I know I can share with you, that the Samsung radar aboard it could track an object the size of a tennis ball for a ginormous range around the ship. They can distinguish between drones and missiles and other aerial threats and track thousands of objects all at once. That sort of early warning system will be vital for our personnel and assets currently on RAF at Crotiri in Cyprus, because as we learnt on Sunday night when we were live here at GB News, as a drone struck the runway, they did not have much warning just moments before it came in and landed on the runway, and there's no hard cover to protect those vehicles as aircraft and also the people involved. But it won't be there until at least another 10 days. It won't leave until early next week, and it can take 5 to 7 days to reach that area, where HMS Dragon will have to go through some drills to get it up to speed before it arrives at Cyprus. More broadly, I can also tell you now, Martin, that Western officials have told GB News in the last hour that American bombers are set to arrive at RAF Fairford and potentially other bases soon to start commencing missions on Iran. So far, since permission was granted by the Prime Minister on Sunday night, we have not seen any of those US strikes using UK air bases, but that is set to change. And while Britain is out of this fight, we can bring you the latest footage from the American operations around the naval assets. So last night, a US Navy submarine sunk an Iranian frigate off the waters of Sri Lanka. And here's the footage of the Mark 48 torpedo striking that Iranian frigate at the rear side there. As you can see, a huge amount of damage. The Sri Lankan armed forces say they're conducting urgent action to rescue those who have been hit on that frigate. It's estimated to have about 180 people on board. They say they've rescued 32 so far. And Pete Hegseth, who is the Secretary of State for War, he said earlier that it was quiet death that had caused that strike. Just one more piece of breaking news to bring you, Martin. That's that Turkey has summoned the Iranian ambassador to Ankara, to its foreign ministry, to convey protests and also concerns about a ballistic missile that Turkey intercepted, fired from Iran earlier today. That's the first time we've seen a ballistic missile fired by Iran into NATO airspace. It's likely it was targeting a Turkish port that is being used to supply oil to Israeli tankers. There's a realistic possibility then that could have been the first ballistic missile being fired towards the eastern Mediterranean. All while, Martin, we are not in the fight. We're not able to defend our personnel from those sorts of risks.
Thank you, Charlie Peters, for that comprehensive update. And let's get to GB News' South of England reporter Isabel Fekulek, who is in Portsmouth with HMS Dragon. Isabel, welcome to the show. HMS Dragon behind you. Why on earth is it not in the Mediterranean doing its job?
Yeah, good afternoon, Martin. As you can see, the sun is shining down on HMS Dragon behind me at His Majesty's Naval Place in Portsmouth. Now, it's been here since December. It's been in a maintenance period previously set for operations in the High North. But today it is at the Upper Harbour Ammunition Facility, where it's been loading up with weapons throughout the day. It's been in preparations. There have been crew on board seemingly working on the ship, some scaffolding on the ship as well. But as you said, it should be going out any minute now, but no, not until next week. We can confirm it won't be going out till next week. At that point, it will take another 5 to 7 days to get to Cyprus to join the French and Greek vessels there. And it really should be a matter of urgency. But as I said, it won't be going out till next week. Work being done on the boat today. Right now, you can see people going on and off the boat, carrying equipment and weapons being carried on via the crane on board. But yeah, it doesn't look like it's going anywhere anytime soon.
It's a magnificent craft. It genuinely is. And I know that the boys and the girls on board there are magnificent at doing their job, but it's just so tragic to see it marooned in dock there when it should just be deployed doing its job in the Mediterranean. Thank you very much, Isabel Fekulek there, live from Portsmouth with forlornly HMS Dragon behind you. Now let's bring in now my studio guest, and that's GB News' senior political commentator Nigel Nelson. Of course, it's Wednesday. He's here all day for 3 hours of arguing. I'm delighted to be joined in the studio by Tom Sharp, OBE, who has served for 27 years as a Royal Navy officer commanding 4 different warships. If I may come to you first, Tom Sharp. This incident, this farce, has been described as the Royal Navy's biggest humiliation. It's made as an international laughing stock. The former head of the Royal Navy, Admiral Lord West, today said Lord Nelson will be spinning in his grave at such ineptitude. As a former officer yourself, how does all this make you feel?
It makes me feel sad for the people in the Navy trying to manage their way out of this impossible situation they've been dealt with. There's a convergence of 2 things here. One is 30 or 40 years in the making, the reduction of our forces to their current very, very thin state. And the second issue is the lack of operational decision-making and clarity around this particular instance. We knew this was coming, and measures were put in place, the jets to Qatar, F-35s to Akrotiri. We knew it was coming. So why wasn't the naval option to get a ship out of the door sooner taken?
Well, that's the big question.
Why? I think when you look at this incident, when you look at the way we are not doing boarding operations for the Dark Fleet, when you look at the way we operated our carrier in and around the Houthi threat a couple of times last year, and the fact that actually one of our nuclear attack submarines went past the Gulf of Oman 2 weeks ago and just went on its way to AUKUS. We've forgotten how to run a navy in the decision-making corridors of this country.
Tom Sharp, on this programme, for a minimum of 6 weeks, we've known that the USS Abraham Lincoln and Reginald Ford were heading towards the Gulf. You know, these are 24-storey high, the world's biggest aircraft carriers. It's been abundantly obvious there was a huge amassing of military arsenal from the Americans. If I can see that, if the world can see that, if that's all over the internet, why on earth are the people in the MOD saying, "Ooh, I'll tell you what, lads, how about we get some craft into the Mediterranean?"
Right, and so somewhere between the Maritime Ops Centre in Northwood offering that as an option, the permanent joint headquarters in Northwood and the MOD, there's a blockage.
This is rookie errors.
But they also are responding to what was at the time a pretty ambiguous political demand signal. Are we in this or are we not? Are we using their bases or are we not? So you can see none of this makes it right.
Is this political cowardice? Because it might be seen as offensive. Surely deploy the craft to take strategic defensive action if required. You've commanded ships. Surely that's the right thing to do.
This is to my point about not knowing how we use navies. It's not escalatory. If you look at the Americans, there's a problem in the world. Send the carrier. You can work out what to do.
Get in there, lads.
On the way. We, for some reason, consider it escalatory, but also there's a protection element to this because our resources are so scarce. And the two are sort of feeding each other. This reluctance on top of this lack of capacity, and here we are. This is why we've made this poor decision.
And Tom Shorb, when you see that picture there, look, live pictures from Portsmouth of HMS Dragon moored, no doubt being prepped, no doubt getting ready to go, and then you were watching the previous footage of the Iranian craft just being taken out of the water, and you had a steel in your eyes. A job well done that was, as tragic as it is that men and women at sea are losing their lives. This is war, and that was a job well done. This is a job terribly done.
Yeah, I mean, that ship there, they will be buzzing. They will want to get off that ammunitioning facility and get to sea, get worked up, get across the Bay of Biscay unscathed, and get into the Mediterranean as quickly as possible.
And do their jobs.
And do their jobs.
Which they want to do.
Same as HMS Diamond in the southern Red Sea when they were shooting down ballistic missiles. Morale was buzzing. And so they will want to get on with it. And this is why my instinct was to feel sorry for the people in dark blue having to manage this morass around them that really sort of puts one arm behind their back at every turn.
And Tom Shaw, I just want to reiterate my comment there. I think that the boys and the girls on that craft are the very, very best of British, the same as those that serve in the Army, the Air Force. This is not about criticism of them. Nobody is criticising the finest Britons around of any generation who prepared to fight for king or queen and country. That's not the point. It's the top brass. It's the people, it's the politicians, afraid, frit, paralysed, inept, impotent, not doing their job and sending resources where it's required. That, I think, that's my problem.
Yeah, I don't disagree. And what frustrates me, I can understand the attenuation of defence spending in the peace dividend, post-1990, whatever, and prioritising for other things. I get it. I didn't agree with it, and it's one of the reasons I left, but I get it. Those excuses now are demonstrably gone. From Russia previously and now this, as if it couldn't be any more immediate. The problem is it could be more immediate. It could happen here. And to an extent, particularly when you talk about Russia and undersea infrastructure and power generation, it already is happening here. But lots of people see naval problems as something that's somewhere else. It's another problem. It's not. We're an island. 90% of everything in your house arrived by sea, including the energy. If we can't assure that, if we can't protect that, then really the government is neglecting its core duty. And that's, I'm afraid, where we are now with the armed forces of this country.
Nigel Nelson, I have to bring you in at this point. There's been a non-stop salvo here against not just Sir Keir Starmer, but to be fair, decades of mismanagement by previous governments, underfunded, under-resourced, and now here we are. The chickens have come home to roost. This has been successive governments abjectly failing to support our military, our Air Force, our Navy, and now here we are. We're a laughingstock on the world stage.
Well, I was interested at a point that Tom seemed to hint at, which was the idea that had we sent a warship to the region early, that might have given Iran the idea that we were going to take part in the initial strikes. Would that be fair? Would that be a fair estimate? I mean, that's a political decision, I appreciate.
I don't think so. We will neither confirm nor deny they're using our bases, was the Secretary of Defence's words over the weekend. That is a nuance that I think is irrelevant to Iran.
Right, OK.
They couldn't care less.
OK.
And I'm actually not saying we necessarily should have preemptively sent a Type 45 prior to the strikes, because we didn't know when that was going to happen exactly. But at least have one straining on the leash in that, at the start.
Not sitting in Portsmouth, basically.
Yeah, but Nigel, as I said, it's been abundantly clear. There's been this huge, the footage is out there, the GPS tracking. It's been abundantly clear. The world's biggest arsenal has just been building and building and building. and we're sat in a dock in Portsmouth.
No, I think I agree. That's why I was curious about Tom's view there, because we should be able to get there sooner than 2 weeks. I mean, that seems to be ridiculous. I mean,
Hard on the button.
There are things
That ship has sailed. The button should have been pressed weeks ago. That's the point, and it wasn't. And that's a political failure.
What the politicians decided to do is that they did press buttons. I mean, F-35s were sent to the region. We put some anti-drone hardware into the region as well.
So why was Cyprus attacked? And why are we going through the abject and historic humiliation of having the French bail us out?
Well, they seem to have been a bit better prepared than we were, and obviously going to get there sooner.
Yeah, but that's not an excuse. That's actually making it worse.
It's not an excuse. I'm not trying to defend this decision. I'm trying to understand why this decision was made, whether it was just simply, as Tom says, an error, basically an error in tactics, or whether it was a deliberate move not to inflame the situation further.
Tom Sharp, what's your take on that? It can't be an error to not deploy this craft. It's a decision. It's a choice.
It's part of the malaise. It wasn't a political decision to not do it. It was just not a decision. It just got lost in the noise. The Navy recommended it, and no one could really decide. And you know what it's like in big hierarchies. Eventually that decision goes away, particularly if you're not getting clear guidance from the top.
So somewhere between Navy top brass saying we need to deploy and the Prime Minister, this got lost in some Whitehall
in amongst all the other
nonsense.
bits and pieces, and it took a drone to get through. We have put some defences in place in Akrotiri. Again, it's still too late. We've known about this threat since at least 2013, and to an extent, the warship is £1 billion sticking plaster. You know, really, those layers should already be there round the clock. They don't cost very much. Drone protection should be there. So we're not only are we too late tactically with the ship, we're too late generally. We've known about this threat since we practiced doing this with a Type 45 in 2013. So, you know, none of this is a surprise.
Tom Sharp, 27 years you served as a Royal Navy officer. It must hurt you to see this. It must hurt you, the reputation. You know, people like yourself live, breathe, prepare to die on the high seas for Queen, for King, for country, for the Crown, for Great Britain, for Rule Britannia. Reputationally and personally, this must really hurt you to see this.
It does smart. I mean, I used to love working with American strike groups. Yeah. I was the anti-submarine warfare commander for 2 in a row down in the Gulf of Oman, essentially prepping for what's happening now. So it was the John C. Stennis and the H.W. Bush. And because our ASW equipment and training and helicopter and sonars were better than anything the Americans had in their task group, that's a fantastic position to be in, and it puts you in a very privileged place when you're the go-to for anti-submarine warfare command. And we also had the mine hunters in the Gulf, moored in Bahrain. We laughingly called them the strategic jewel, but they were. They were, again, a capability that we were the best in the world at, bar none, better than the Americans, better than everyone. They've all gone. It's just been eroded in the idea that there'll be an autonomous solution in 10 years' time.
Tom Sharp, I saw your eyes lighting up there, talking about the past, talking about the present. Your shoulders fell. Do you feel watching this that the sun is just setting on Rule Britannia?
No, it can be reversed. It can be reversed. It needs an injection of cash. It needs a root and branch cultural reform in the way we procure equipment and recruit and retain people. It almost needs a Doge-like construct. Yeah. Now, the military strategic headquarters was configured to try and do that, but if there's any evidence of that working yet, I'm not seeing it. So we need more money. We need to spend it better, and we need more people. And those three things are all symbiotic. They all have to happen at the same time. So it's not irrecoverable.
And Tom Sharp, we need more men like you. As I always say, thank you for your service, sir. Thanks for coming in today. I appreciate sincerely your honesty, your integrity, and what you've done for our country. Thank you very, very much. Nigel Nelson, thank you very, very much indeed. Now, just to continue now, still to come. As Donald Trump blasted Sir Keir Starmer as no Churchill for his lack of support over Iran, we'll be live with our man Ben Leo in Washington, D.C. That's next on GB News.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
the Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's Tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong Tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's approaching 3:30 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, Donald Trump has launched an astonishing attack on Keir Starmer, accusing the Prime Minister of failing to stand shoulder to shoulder with America as tensions with Iran continue to escalate.
By the way, I'm not happy with the UK either. That island that you read about, the lease, okay, he made it for whatever reason, he made a lease of the island. Somebody came and took it away from him. And it's taken 3-4 days for us to work out where we can land there. It would have been much more convenient landing there as opposed to flying many extra hours. So we are very surprised. This is not Winston Churchill that we're dealing with.
Now let's have a taste of the words of the man himself, Winston Churchill, from 1946.
This means a special relationship between the British Commonwealth and Empire and the United States of America.
What would Winnie think today? Well, Reform UK's Nigel Farage thinks the Keir might have done more damage than he might realise.
Well, he's quite right to say he's no Churchill. There's a complete breakdown now in relationships between our government and the American administration. And, you know, Donald Trump does forgive people, but not quickly. And I suspect this breach is going to be unmendable.
It's just an astonishing situation. The special relationship, one of the first casualties of the Iran war. Well, joining me now is GB News' senior political commentator, Nigel Nelson. Nigel, it just staggers me that we're at a situation so soon into the first proper conflict where the United Kingdom could and perhaps should have been an offensive ally with the United States, and Donald Trump is basically withering in his condemnation of the ineptitude of Sir Keir Starmer.
What staggers me is that somebody in the position of Donald Trump would say something like that, would be as insulting to an allied leader as he was. I thought that what he said was absolutely appalling. I'm equally appalled by people who call themselves patriots siding with a US president who's prepared to slug off our own country. The whole thing seems to be really un-British. We've somehow thought, oh, Donald Trump is suddenly right. Is he right? We can certainly question that. But to actually side with, well, it is un-British to actually go along with somebody who slags off our country.
Look at those two men on your screen. Look at those two men on your screen. The cigar-chomping legend, the greatest Prime Minister we've ever had, Winston Churchill.
Greatest wartime Prime Minister.
The greatest Prime Minister, period, we've ever had, voted by the British public time and time again.
Yeah, all right. I think the greatest wartime Prime Minister.
And then Sir Keir Starmer on the right. We will fight them with international treaties. We will consult Brussels. It's nonsense. When the darkest hour comes, you need a man of action, not a man of bureaucracy.
Yeah, we've argued through Keir Starmer's decision-making process, which I happen to think is right. Spain is having the same problem because they decided this was going to be
the socialist Prime Minister.
Yeah, well, I mean, basically, Keir Starmer's responsibility, his prime responsibility, is to keep British citizens safe. 300,000 of them are in the region. As a result, he was facing a war that was of dubious legality, probably was illegal. We still haven't had an answer from America on that one yet.
OK, let's get now to our man in DC. It is Ben Leo. Ben Leo, the special relationship in special measures. It's on life support.
Yeah, hello Martin, viewers and listeners. Just listening to Nigel there saying it's the job of Keir Starmer to protect British citizens. I mean, where do we start? 50-odd thousand small boat migrants over the past year or so, failing to prescribe still the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps as a terrorist organisation, despite every other country pretty much in the world doing so. The EU most recently over the past couple of months, the United States well ahead of the game back in 2019. So I'm not having that it's Keir Starmer's priority or intention to protect British citizens. I'm sure he'd say he would, but everything he does suggests the opposite. In terms of the comments from President Trump yesterday towards Keir Starmer, yeah, I tweeted about this, or posted rather, on X yesterday. I think now it's safe to say that President Trump can finally give up the pretense of actually liking Keir Starmer. We've seen so many times in public, haven't we, Martin, where President Trump is always very reluctant to criticise not just Keir Starmer but other European leaders by name, despite saying, for example, the UK has many problems or Europe is going to hell. He's always been reluctant to criticise them by name. That's now all gone out the window. He was holding no punches back yesterday in his criticism of Keir Starmer. And it has to be said, the truth of the matter is, for the most part, Martin, the administration here in America has had a dim view of Labour generally, even before Trump was elected. They were campaigning for Kamala Harris in Pennsylvania some years ago, sorry. You've got free speech issues, you've got people being jailed for social media posts, you've got Greenland, Iran, all sorts going on. And I have to say, this isn't a dig at the British people. There is a clear distinction. President Trump is a big admirer of Britain as a nation and its people. But when it comes to the Labour government, yeah, no more secrets, no more pretending. A dim view held, to say the very least. Martin.
OK, Ben Leo, thank you very much for joining us there from Washington, D.C. It's a pleasure to have your company. Now, loads more still to come between now and 4 p.m. on a very, very busy news day, including mosques across the UK have held candlelit vigils for the late Ayatollah Khamenei. Is it time to get real? Is it time to clamp down and close those same radical mosques? That's next here on GB News.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Fog across a large part of England will slowly clear this morning. Warm sunny spells then follow, albeit with some patchy cloud and some spots of rain coming into the northwest as the day progresses, courtesy of this fairly weak at first weather front. Ahead of that front, clouds thickening for Scotland and Northern Ireland, freshening breeze as well. Patchy cloud here and there elsewhere, especially where we've got the fog through the morning. That's going to only slowly lift into the afternoon. But where we've got sunshine developing, it's going to feel very warm indeed, and in some places 16 to 18 Celsius is possible, but it's going to feel cooler along that east coast, particularly where we've got the lingering fog, and cooler across Scotland and Northern Ireland as the breeze picks up and as the cloud thickens. Some light showers at first for central and western Scotland, parts of Northern Ireland, but that rain will turn heavier and more persistent as the night wears on. Clear spells predominantly for England and Wales, and for much of the night it remains clear across a large part of central and southeastern UK. Towards the west, the clouds continue to roll in and it turns wet for Northern Ireland as well as western Scotland during the early hours. As that rain moves in, it's going to remain mild in the north and the west, but a bit cooler towards the central and southeastern part of the UK. Again, with some mist and fog to begin things on Thursday, but plenty of sunshine soon returning for the Midlands, the east and southeast. Western England, Wales, cloudier skies, 1 or 2 spots of rain later, but it's a damp day for Northern Ireland, much of central and western Scotland, and feeling colder as that rain continues. Bye.
Thank you to our global community for watching and listening to GB News. We're not only the #1 news channel in Britain, we're chosen by you around the world.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. On the A34 northbound in Oxfordshire, heavy congestion between the A423 and A44 is causing 20-minute delays. The A19 northbound at Stockton-on-Tees has debris between the A66 and A1046, shutting one lane. The M1 southbound in Northamptonshire has planned maintenance, closing 2 lanes. On the M6 northbound in Staffordshire, a shed load is blocking 3 lanes, causing long delays. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast and Northern are delayed between Preston and Wigan North Western. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Welcome back. It's approaching 3:39. You're with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, vigils have been held at several mosques across the UK for Iran's former supreme leader, the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, a man many critics say had British blood on his hands. Now, it's one North London centre. Mourners gathered around candlelit photos as one voice was even heard declaring, we will obey you, Khamenei. And here's the big question. Is it time to clamp down on these radical mosques? Is it time to raid them and perhaps even close them down? Let's now speak with the founder of Tel Mama, and that is Fayaz Magal. Fayaz, it's always a pleasure to have your company. In the first instance, Fayaz, it was a great shock to many Brits, no doubt, to learn of these tearful, candlelit vigils towards an Islamist tyrant who's massacred tens of thousands of his own citizens. That's bad enough. But the fact this is happening on British soil, is it time to clamp down on these mosques?
I think let me start off with what you said. First of all, I think I'm wholly surprised as anyone else that these kind of quote commemorations are taking place. Second of all, certainly I think if we've got commemorations that are taking place, and I understand for some that he is their religious leader, but that is not the point here. The point here is actually this individual was involved in hostage taking. I remember the 1980s and the massive hostage taking that took place in Lebanon, including our own Archbishop of Canterbury's aide that was sent to Lebanon. He was involved in the attacks against British soldiers through IEDs in Iraq. And so, yes, this individual does have blood on their hands, and I don't think any religious institution should be commemorating him. Now, coming on to the point of should they be investigated, certainly they should be looked at. They should be looked at by the Charity Commission. They should be looked at by our relevant intelligence agencies, because this kind of activity for somebody who has damaged our nation is not acceptable.
Yeah, but that's all well and saying there should be an investigation, but investigations can be kicked into the long grass or take years. And by then, damage could be done. This one particular mosque in question, the Islamic Centre for England, it is already under Charity Commission investigation since 2022, 4 years now, over claims it operates as an extension of the Iranian state. Now, it denies those claims, but the fact that it's having a candlelit vigil for an Islamist despot How much more proof do you need? And I put it to you, if this is happening in plain sight, and we clearly could be about to experience an increased terror threat in this country because of what's going on foreign shores, we've seen that after Gaza. How long do we need to wait before we just like say, these places may be sacred places of religious practice, but why are they sacred from being above investigations or even raids?
I hear you totally. Look, I'm in agreement with what Tom Tugendhat, MP, has been saying for a long time, that we actually need a treason act in Parliament, that we need some statutory law that allows us to look at, close down, shut down, prosecute, as well as raise in Parliament through our legislation and our relevant legal acts, those that actually conduct treason, i.e. they support other nations' attacks on us and other nations' policies of attacks on us. So I am fully in agreement with Tom Tugendhat and also in agreement with yourselves that actually we need to have tougher legislation that allows action to be taken against institutions that may be commemorating, marking, celebrating, whatever they're doing, individuals who have been directly against the interests of the United Kingdom.
OK, but the trouble with that, it sounds great, but it will take so long to enact. And I put it to you, it won't happen under this government. There's no way there's an appetite to do that. We had Sir Keir Starmer last night in Parliament, backing the Muslim community. And, of course, there are a great many peace-loving, wonderful Muslims. No one's saying that everyone is the same. But the point of the fact is there doesn't seem to be any appetite for any kind of clampdown now. So in the absence of that, should we be identifying individuals, just deporting them, get them out of the country?
I think there is a relevant case for that. I think if there are people who are not British nationals who are celebrating and commemorating individuals like this, I think we need to look at ways by which they can actually be extradited, expelled, pushed out of our country, whatever you want to call it. I would agree with that sentiment. Now, the problem here is, as you've raised, is this Labour government is going to not do anything on any of these points of action that we've discussed. And in fact, yesterday, I had a real problem with the Prime Minister standing at this iftar. And again, great, people are having an iftar, fantastic. But the reality is the Prime Minister was trying to say to them, look, I didn't attack Iran. What was he trying to get at that iftar? Why was he raising that? Was he trying to make a suggestion that I'm reaching out, that I'm not attacking another Muslim country? What was he trying to do? For me, that is just pandering and playing political games at a time when our country needs to be much more resolute against the threats, the multipolar threats that are taking place against it, including from Iran, including from Russia and other actors who want to do us harm.
Fayez Mughal, the founder of Tell Mama, you're always straight from the heart. Thank you for joining us on the show. I appreciate your opinions as ever. Well, I'm joined in the studio by Nigel Nelson, who was huffing and puffing most of the way through that. What's your problem with what was being said there?
I was. You're absolutely right. I was huffing and puffing. Look, I think Iran is a hateful regime and the Ayatollahs who run it, hateful people. So I start from there.
Right.
But the idea that we're actually talking about closing down mosques because the people inside them want to mourn somebody seems to be a complete...
Somebody?
Yeah, I mean, the Ayatollah murdered...
A keen rambler who was a vegetarian. Come off it. He's a murderous, despotic Islamist tyrant who massacred his own people, brutally hung gay people, misogynists who hung and imprisoned women who wouldn't wear the hijab.
I'm not disputing any of that.
This is not Alan Titchmarsh.
I'm not disputing any of that, but isn't there an element here of free speech, that if they want to mourn somebody, that they should be... perfectly allowed to do that, that if they're inciting violence, then that would be breaking the law, then yes, we should be acting. But in this case, lighting a candle is hardly a terrorist incident. And so on the basis of that, I think unless they cross a line, and they haven't crossed a line here...
So you don't think that there's any evidence whatsoever that organisations that endorse the Ayatollah, that have their own board selected by a representative of the Ayatollah, have any place in Britain. It's crazy. How much more evidence do you need? I've been told we have to move on, Nigel, but we've got 3 more hours of this. Now, listen, a spokesman for the Islam, of course, a spokesman for the Islamic Centre of England has insisted it focuses on religious education and community services only and does not in any way endorse extremism or criminal activity. Now, coming up next, I have all the latest on a scandal involving a government farm in Northern Ireland. Dougie Beattie, our man, will bring us the full story live.
We will have more on this story right after the break.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
the Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
Because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's Tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong Tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
Now, here's a fun story for you. Who needs a designated driver when the owner of the pub will take you home?
Yeah, he's really nice. He's Paul Hartfield, the owner of the Flying Horse near Ashford. And he offers patrons a ride home, provided they live within a 3-mile radius.
And he joins us now. It's good to see you this morning. It must keep you busy, Paul.
Sorry?
It must keep you busy. Running, you know, you take the money, you give them a few beers, then you have to drive them home afterwards.
I know, that's really over and above.
Exactly, but it's just a thing to do for the community. Really, we do a lot of charity work here. I don't accept any money from it. They donate in a box towards MND this year.
Yeah, no, good on you. I mean, we can see the black cab behind you there, because you used to be a black cab driver, didn't you?
No, I used to work in the industry. I was never a black cab driver.
Oh, right, so you bought a black cab just for this enterprise, have you?
Yes, yeah. But now the Ashford Borough Council have got involved and I shouldn't be doing it. I've been told that I can't do it.
But that's the interesting thing about it. You're fostering community spirit. And that's the whole point of what you're trying to do, and it's what pubs are renowned for. It's why we need to save them. It's all about community spirit and cohesion.
That's right. I mean, we do a tractor run every year as well. We raised just short of £7,000 in December for MND again. We've got one of our customers in the village. Her mum's got it, so it really hit home, actually.
Well, look, Paul, let us know how your case with the council goes, and we'll come and visit you again at some point.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 10 to 4. You have me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, the Northern Ireland Minister of Agriculture, Environment and Rural Affairs is facing calls to resign after a magnificent GB News investigation. Now, we've obtained shocking pictures that show poor animal welfare, pollution and raw sewage on a government farm. And for more of this, we're now joined by the man who broke that mega-exclusive GB News' national Northern Ireland reporter, Dougie Beattie. Dougie, you're ruffling all the right feathers over there in Northern Ireland.
Well, it's hot weather, it's hot water for Andrew Moore, of course, because I received these pictures 6 months ago and the minister refused to speak to me. Then AFBI refused to speak to me. That's the farm, the government funded farm in question, and they set policy for all the rest of the farms in Northern Ireland. And unfortunately this minister is an environmentalist and he was putting impossible targets onto farmers in Northern Ireland. Then when this broke, it showed that they couldn't even do what they were saying everyone else could do. Now, he went out of his road, and the Executive Information Service that receives £5 million a year to present the ministers to the media blocked me at every stage. I had to go to the Agriculture Committee with these pictures when they were had a committee meeting with AFBI CEO, and it was there that he confirmed these were indeed pictures of AFBI Farm. And then they still didn't come to me and talk, Martin, which is unbelievable. They decided to release their own video saying in the video that they had problems over the last 3 years, and of course it's okay now. Well, the rest of the farmers in Northern Ireland are up in arms because they're saying, sorry, if this was us, we had a sewage leak, we had a slurry burst, we polluted waters, we had bad animal welfare, we would be in court, we'd be sued. But most shocking of all was yesterday in Stormont, the Minister, under parliamentary privileges, said this when he was questioned.
I agree to meet the journalist Dougie Beattie, who has raised these concerns, or will you continue to hide and shy away from scrutiny on this issue?
20 minutes ago.
I'm not hiding, I'm here. Okay, I'm here answering questions. I don't know whether you were in the chamber earlier, but this was raised and I already responded to it. And there's a trend in this place where people ask the same question again and again when it's already been responded to.
Minister, back to you.
In relation to meeting GB News, I will meet serious journalists. GB News is neither that.
Well, there you go. The Minister admitting that he is censoring the media. And it obviously causes problems here because the rest of the media are either they challenge him on this as we go together and say you cannot do that, or are they complicit in just putting out what the executive wants them to say? He has started such a row that he should never have said it in the first place. If it had came to me 6 months ago and said, yes, we have problems, we can sort this out, but he used parliamentary privileges to say that. I have been 32 years in the media, Martin, under different guises, from a journalist to an editor to a director to a producer to a cameraman to a VJ. I have probably one of the biggest CVs in Northern Ireland, and I challenge him to say that outside the chamber, and we'll see just how much of a serious journalist I actually am.
Dougie Beattie, I know your reputation goes before you. My money's on you, mate. Have a wrestle in that pit behind you. You're going to batter him, mate. Thank you very much, Dougie Beattie. You're ruffling all the right feathers, as ever. Thank you very much. Got a major beef there. Now, the AFBI declined an interview, but had previously said they undertook an extensive and thorough investigation after their concerns were raised, and they strenuously refute any suggestions of poor farming practices. Now, still to come, and more humiliation for Britain. The Navy warship HMS Dragon will not reach Cyprus for another 2 weeks. Lord Nelson will be spinning in his grave to see that craft still moored off the coast of Portsmouth. Why on earth is that not in the Med defending Cyprus? That's next here on GB News.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's a beautiful day for many of us, plenty of warm sunshine, not for all however. Parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland are generally cloudier with some spots of rain before it turns increasingly damp later as a weather front moves in. That weather front, a weak affair at first, only tending to thicken up the cloud through the evening across many parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. Patchy cloud into western parts of England and Wales by the end of the night. And elsewhere, under clear skies, lighter winds, while temperatures will fall away. Another chilly night in some shelter spots for central and southeastern England, and a few mist patches to wake up to, but it's milder towards the west and the north because of the thicker cloud, because it's a breezier start to the day. And we start the day with outbreaks of persistent rain, especially into western Scotland, but some patchy rain moving into the north and east of Scotland. Edinburgh most likely to start dry, albeit cloudy. Northern Ireland, outbreaks of rain most prolonged towards western areas. Belfast seeing the rain more on and off. But for much of England and Wales, it's a bright start once again. Yeah, a few early mist and fog patches once again. They'll clear through the morning. And we've got this sheet of cloud just ebbing into parts of Western England and Wales. It's a slow-moving feature, however, and that means it's going to stay damp across Northern Ireland into much of Scotland. As colder air starts to emerge. Later in the day, we'll see a few flakes of snow over the peaks of Scotland. But ahead of that, it's a warm day, even warmer compared with today, with temperatures reaching 19 Celsius across parts of central and southeastern England. Feeling colder, however, in the rain and behind the rain as this front slowly edges east and southeast on Thursday night. Friday, that front's still with us, bringing a legacy of cloud and some showery rain across central areas. Saturday and Sunday, mostly dry, but not entirely.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for making GB News Radio such a huge success. Whether you're in the car, on the go, or listening at home, thank you for choosing us as your radio station.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. On the M6 northbound between Junction 14 and Junction 15 in Staffordshire, a shed load has closed 3 of 4 lanes, causing delays of around 2 hours. In Northamptonshire, M1 southbound between Junction 19 and Junction 18 has a road traffic collision with 2 lanes shut. Also, the A470 is blocked both ways by an accident near Rhyada, with local diversions in place. And on the trains, Greater Anglia has a reduced service between London Liverpool Street and Stansted Airport, while ScotRail has no trains between Airblees and Newton via Hamilton Central. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
A camper van and cash could be yours in our very latest Great British Giveaway. You could be driving away in this brand new Benavan 122. This 2026 model, worth over £67,000, comes with all of the mod cons you'd expect. And that's not all, as you'll also get an incredible £25,000 in tax-free cash to boost your bank account this year. For a chance to win a camper van and cash, text prize to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB20 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of May. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
A very, very good afternoon to you. It's 4 p.m. and welcome to the Martin Daubney Show here on GB News, broadcasting for you live across the UK. We've got all the very latest news, debate and analysis all the way through until 6 p.m. And here's what's coming up on today's show. The former head of the Royal Navy has turned his guns this time on Keir Starmer. He blasted Lord Nelson will be spinning in his grave at the PM's strategically inept failure to deploy Royal Navy warships to the Mediterranean to protect Cyprus. Now that's as GB News understands today that HMS Dragon, you can see there live pictures on your screen of dragons still moored off the coast of Portsmouth. They will not reach RAF Akrotiri for at least 2 weeks. Is our rudderless government hold below the waterline?
Not happy with the UK either. This is not Winston Churchill that we're dealing with.
And Donald Trump has roared Sir Keir Starmer is no Churchill after our PM's disappointing decision to stop Trump using British air bases. In Trump's darkest hour, did Sir Keir Starmer betray him and make the USA-UK special relationship a tragic casualty of the Iran war? And a controversial London mosque has held a candlelit vigil to mark its deep sorrow and heartbreak towards Iran's deceased Ayatollah, with similar events taking place in Manchester, Birmingham and Nottingham. Is it high time to close down these radical mosques and even jail or deport any Islamists poisoning Britain? And the ongoing inquiry into the systemic failings that allowed Valdo Callaghan to murder 3 in Nottingham continues. Today we heard how the psychopath demanded to be arrested 2 years before he went on his killing spree. Will anybody ever be held to account? I'll be joined on the show by Dr. Sanjoy Kumar, of course the father of Grace O'Malley Kumar, who was tragically killed by Callaghan. Welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have your company. Astonishing scenes today off the coast of Portsmouth. HMS Dragon, which surely should be in the Mediterranean defending Cyprus, ruled Britannia defending the high seas, is still moored, anchored, impotent, totemic, perhaps a glimpse into the heart of Britain. Is this the Royal Navy's darkest humiliation, its biggest humiliation? It's been called that, made us a laughingstock, said the former head of the British Navy, who added Lord Nelson would be spinning in his grave. Meanwhile, Donald Trump over the pond there saying that Sir Keir Starmer is no Winston Churchill. In our darkest hour, as we go into war once again, it's a special relationship. Lying on the ground, bloodied, battered, and deceased. Get in touch. GBNews.com/your say is the way to do so. We can use the QR code on your screens now. But enough for me. Let's have your headlines. And here's Tatiana Sanchez.
Martin, thank you very much and good afternoon. The top stories. The US Defense Secretary says a US submarine sank an Iranian warship in the Indian Ocean with a torpedo. Pete Hegseth didn't name the ship, but earlier the Sri Lankan Navy said around 140 people were missing after an Iranian ship, the Iris Denner, went down off the coast of Gal. Mr. Hegseth also said America is winning without mercy, adding the US will have control of Iran's skies in under a week. Well, his comments come as the war in the Middle East is now in its 5th day. The Israeli military says it's launched a broad wave of strikes in both Lebanon and in Iran, focusing on targeting Hezbollah infrastructure in Beirut and the Iranian terror regime in Tehran. Meanwhile, Sir Keir Starmer says letting the US use UK bases and British jets shooting down drones in the Middle East is the special relationship in action, while hanging on to President Trump's latest words is not.
American planes are operating out of British bases. That is the special relationship in action. British jets are shooting down drones and missiles to protect American lives in the Middle East on our joint bases. That is the special relationship in action. Sharing intelligence every day to keep our people safe. That is the special relationship in action. Hanging on to President Trump's latest words is not the special relationship in action.
Meanwhile, the Reform UK leader Nigel Farage has reacted to the US president's comments about the Prime Minister.
He's quite right to say he's no Churchill. There's a complete breakdown now in relationships between our government and the American administration. And, you know, Donald Trump does forgive people, but not quickly. And I suspect this breach is going to be unmendable.
Meanwhile, US bombers are set to strike Iran from British bases soon. That's according to officials, with bombers expected to arrive at RAF Airfor. The officials also said Iran will run out of ballistic missiles in the coming days if they continue to fire at this current rate. Throughout the briefing, Western officials were keen to stress that we should not rule anything out regarding possible action by US allies. Meanwhile, a government charter flight will be available this evening for British nationals wanting to leave Amman. That flight will depart the country's capital, Muscat, at 7 o'clock, and it's available for British nationals, their partners and children under the age of 18 with a valid travel document. The Prime Minister confirmed that more than 1,000 British nationals returned from the UAE yesterday, with 8 flights due to land back home today. More charter flights are also expected in the coming days. In other news, 3 men have been arrested on suspicion of spying for China. The Metropolitan Police said the suspects, aged 39, 43 and 68, were arrested by counter-terrorism officers in London and Wales after being accused of assisting a foreign intelligence service. One of the 3 arrested is David Taylor, the husband of a sitting Labour MP. Joni Reid's MP said in a statement today, "I've never seen anything to make me suspect my husband has broken any law." She says, "I'm not part of my husband's business activities and neither I nor my children are part of this investigation, and we should not be treated by media organisations as though we are." The Metropolitan Police says all 3 accused men remain in custody and searches have been carried out at the addresses where they were arrested. Elsewhere, the government has placed an emergency brake on visas for nationals from 4 countries as the Home Secretary accused them of exploiting Britain's generosity to claim asylum. Study visas for nationals from Afghanistan, Cameroon, Myanmar and Sudan have been halted, as have work visas for Afghans. The government claims a growing number of people from these countries are using legal migration routes to then claim asylum in the UK. The Home Office described the suspension as an unprecedented step. Shabana Mahmood says Britain will always provide refugee to people fleeing war and persecution, but she says our visa system must not be abused. And in sport, breaking news this hour, Harry Maguire has been handed a 15-month suspended sentence by a Greek court. That's over an incident in Mykonos more than 5 years ago. The Manchester United centre-back faced allegations of non-serious assault, resisting arrest and attempted bribery. He was convicted on all 3 counts. Maguire, though, has always denied any wrongdoing, and it's understood his legal team will be appealing against the guilty verdict. The player was arrested after a fight involving his family outside a bar on the Greek island in 2020. And those are the latest headlines. Here's a look at the finance.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
And here's a quick snapshot of today's markets. The pound will buy you $1.3379 and €1.1487. The price of gold, £3,884.97 per ounce. And the FTSE 100 is at 10,575 points.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Thank you, Tatiana. Breaking news this afternoon. US bombers are now set, after all, to land at British RAF bases any day now to join in those attacks on Iran. But our British Navy warship HMS Dragon, meanwhile, will not reach our Cyprus military base for at least another 2 weeks. So much for Rule Britannia. Maybe this is Fool Britannia. Portsmouth-based Type 45 won't set sail until next week, and then it will take another week for it to arrive on station. Now, this comes after the humiliation that the French and even the military minnow of Greece sent in support on the high seas to save us, to save our face. And I'm joined now by GB News national reporter Charlie Peters. Charlie, welcome to the show. The former head of the Royal Navy, Admiral Lord West, has said Lord Nelson will be spinning in his grave, calling it the Royal Navy's biggest humiliation, made us a laughingstock on the high seas. How on earth, how can HMS Dragon still be moored in Portsmouth?
Well, Martin, I could barely hear you over Rule Britannia there for a moment. Glad to get your voice eventually. I'm going to start first with an update we've just had in from the Israeli Defense Forces. They say they've just struck a command compound in Tehran, which has hit the IRGC headquarters, the Quds Force headquarters. That's the asymmetric warfare branch of the IRGC, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, and also the headquarters of the unit in internal security responsible for suppressing protests. That unit accused of killing thousands, if not tens of thousands, of Iranian civilians in January during those counter-government protests. An IDF official has just told GB News that more than 100 Israeli Air Force fighter jets struck that Iranian military compound containing multiple command centres and that internal security unit with more than 250 separate munitions. That just coming into to us now from the IDF. And Tom and Martin, in the last hour, our colleague Tom Fredericks has been attending a briefing from the Israeli embassy in the United Kingdom, speaking about those strikes on RAF Akrotiri in Cyprus, saying that they can't tell us positively where they were sent from, but they think it's highly likely to be Lebanon and that Hezbollah were behind it. They said it's easy for Hezbollah to shoot those drones from everywhere, such as every rooftop in Beirut could be used as a place to deploy them. Which brings us to that major concern, Martin. How do we defend that base? Well, yes, HMS Dragon won't be leaving until next week. We broke the news last night from naval sources, but it's now being confirmed by Western officials that HMS Dragon will not be deploying until next week, meaning there will be 2 weeks essentially without protection over RAF Akrotiri from ballistic missiles. We've seen one approaching Turkish airspace earlier today. That's the first time we've seen an Iranian missile in NATO airspace, which will raise major concerns, not just for the British personnel in the area, but also for our Cypriot allies who work with us to maintain that sovereign base area at Akrotiri and also Dhekelia to the east. And all the while that we are reporting on this grave concern for HMS Dragon, we've forgotten about HMS Duncan, the other warship that was being touted as a possible destroyer to be deployed towards the eastern Mediterranean. We understand here at GB News, Martin, that both Duncan and Dragon, those ships were set for NATO and the High North deployments respectively. So we also understand that the Navy did present options to the government to redirect at least HMS Duncan away from Portsmouth, away from that NATO mission, instead to send it towards the eastern Mediterranean. But in fact, that option was not taken. There are major questions, Martin, that must urgently be answered by the Ministry of Defence and by government ministers and military planners as to what plans were presented before them, what was the maintenance timeline, what options were there, and why was the choice taken not to send that ship over there. Just very quickly, Martin, we have also heard an update from the US Central Command. They've said that they've now destroyed 20 Iranian naval vessels, and that comes as they've just released footage we can bring you now of a US Navy submarine striking a Iranian frigate off the coast of Sri Lanka. That taking place last night. I hope we can bring you that footage now, Martin, sent to us. Here it is from the US Central Command. Now, the last time that a nuclear-powered submarine destroyed a warship in combat was 1982. HMS Conqueror striking the Belgrano during the Falklands War. History being made every day during this ongoing conflict. That ship, we understand, it was returning back towards Iran. It's now out of the fight.
Johnny Peters, just amazing footage on our screens there. And earlier on in the studio, I was sat with Tom Sharp, OBE, 27 years commanding warships. And when he saw that, you could tell the look in his eyes. He wanted our boys, our girls to be out there in the Med doing our bit for Royal Britannia, but sadly, still moored in Portsmouth. Johnny Peters, superb as ever. Thank you very much. Now, it's been kicking off politically over the transatlantic. Let's get now to our man at the White House, and that is GB News presenter Ben Leo. Ben, welcome back to the show. An incredible situation. The already fragile special relationship seems to be bleeding out on the floor. Incredible comments from Donald Trump saying that Sir Keir Starmer is no Churchill.
Yes, of course, yeah, those comments coming last night, and as I was saying to you previously, no surprises now, no pretense that the President is fond of Keir Starmer anymore, so that's that. Behind me, Martin, the White House is prepping itself, the press briefing room, for the first press briefing since this war started on Saturday. Caroline Levitt, President Trump's press secretary, will be taking to the podium in front of the world's media, including us here at GB News, to answer, I should probably imagine, a whole host and myriad of questions about this conflict. GB News viewers and listeners, if you're watching now and you have a question that is absolutely burning inside you for the President and this administration, let me know. gbviews@gbnews.com. That's gbviews@gbnews.com. I'll go through them and I'll try and pick the best one out and get it asked to Caroline Levitt behind me. The briefing starts in about 2 hours' time, just under, so we've got some time for that. Elsewhere, there is a big vote, Martin, in Congress tonight, just a few miles down the road here from the White House. It's the War Powers Resolution, which is a policy, or a vote rather, tabled by the Democrats here in DC, basically saying, Mr. President, you had no authority to launch this conflict. You should have gone to Congress first before striking Iran. And they'll be voting tonight on whether President Trump has to cease all military operations against Iran within 30 days. If he loses the vote, that will have to happen within 30 days. The bombs will be off, the jets will be home, and the frigates and the warships will be returning to base. I will say, though, there's a caveat. If it does pass, which it probably won't, it needs 50 votes. There's 47 Democrats, and one, including John Fetterman from Pennsylvania, has said he won't be backing it, so it's a very slim chance it passes. But if it does pass, President Trump here in the White House can veto it anyway when it comes across his desk, Martin.
There we go. Superb stuff. Thank you very, very much, Ben, Leo, and good luck in that press conference around the White House. They look legendary. Thank you very much indeed. Now let's get back to the studio for some political reaction. I'm joined by GB News' senior political commentator Nigel Nelson, of course, my sparring partner all days on Wednesdays. I'm delighted to be joined by the insurance correspondent at the Financial Times, Lee Harris. Lee Harris, I'm going to start with you, if I may. Insurance, to most people, is one of those things that's a necessary evil, but it's vital, essential to getting oil through the Straits of Hormuz. Of course, this is the entire point. The moment everything's simply ground to a halt.
That's right.
Off the coast of Iran. It's a 25-mile choke point, only slightly wider than the English Channel. Huge amount of oil goes through there. At present, it's simply ground to a halt.
Cargo as well, food shipments.
All of that. It's a vital shipping lane. At the moment, it's ground to a halt. Tell us why the insurance angle is so important.
Well, insurers over the weekend started cancelling policies quite early on Saturday already, anticipating the retaliatory bombing that would be, the retaliatory attacks by Iran following the campaign of bombing by the US and Israel in the region. And they anticipated that the risk profile would continue to be higher, as it has been. And they've put up their prices. So for vessels that now want to travel in the Gulf waters or particularly through the Strait, prices have risen by as much as 12-fold. And so some vessels are just deciding not to transit the region.
And Lloyd's of London, a British company, obviously generally backs most of these policies. And they said at the moment, no, it's too risky, we shan't be doing it. Donald Trump, we hear, has stepped in to try and offer some American-backed alternative. Will that get the Strait moving quickly, or is it still too hazardous? Because people really care about the price of petrol, of food, of goods. How long is that piece of elastic before we start getting hammered here?
Yeah, so the insurers at Lloyd's have said they need to charge quite a lot more, and in some cases they're just not willing to insure vessels transiting through the Strait, again, because of that very real risk that they're pricing for their clients. Trump overnight came out with an announcement that really took the market by surprise. People have been sort of scrambling all day to figure out what it means, but he says that he will use the DFC, the Development Finance Corporation, originally an aid agency, to backstop the market in some way. And there's some precedent for that. So the DFC has been used in Ukraine, for example, to provide political risk insurance to investors there who are concerned about their exposure. But we don't know what this could look like, or actually if it could get vessels moving through the Strait. So
this is the way of trying to short-circuit the market, to get it moving again, to make sure prices stay down. Is that likely to be successful? And we keep seeing footage of Iranian vessels going up in a cloud of smoke. We hear that most of the Iranian navy is now at the bottom of the sea. The entire regime is getting decapitated and paralysed. But from an insurance perspective, are you saying for now it's still too risky for anything to start moving?
That's right. There's no real shortage of capital in the insurance industry to backstop these risks. It's just a matter of whether vessels want to pay and indeed whether they can get their crews on board with going through this super risky area at the moment. So also the DFC, which, as I say, is an aid agency, it's now run by Ben Black, who is the son of the Apollo financier Leon Black. The DFC, he isn't really in the business of providing this kind of insurance. It provides longer-term political risk insurance.
OK, superb stuff. And we can see the live pictures over Tel Aviv, of course, starting to get dark. Will there be more missiles incoming from Iran this evening? Lee Harris, that's the insurance correspondent at the FT, Financial Times. Thank you very much for joining us. Nigel Nelson, let's get you back in there for some political reaction. Of course, every night now it's the same pattern. We see the sun setting over the Middle East. We're waiting for more flotilla to come in. We're waiting for more arsenal to be exchanged across these borders, but back here the political storm is raging, and all eyes really on the incredible, some might say shameful sights of HMS Dragon being moored off the coast of Portsmouth. How in the name of Jesus can it still be there when on this show we've been charting the immense build-up of the American Navy for at least 6 weeks? Everybody knew this was coming. Why are we still sat on our hands?
Well, I mean, the only thing I could actually think of was that we didn't want to give the Iranians the impression we were going to join in the initial strikes.
Oh, perish the thought.
Well,
I mean, won't stand up to an Ayatollah.
On the basis we've got 300,000 British citizens in the region, that would put them at a greater risk than they are at the moment.
How?
Because if we'd been involved, bear in mind, all
drones are flying into Cyprus.
The thing about war,
how could people in Cyprus be more at risk if we'd sent the Royal Navy?
You're thinking after the event.
No, I'm not.
Prior to the
forward plan.
That when wars start, they become unpredictable and have unintended consequences. We didn't know how Iran was going to respond, so that would be a reason. I mean, we've had Tom Sharp, a former naval officer, who says he thinks the decision simply got lost between the top brass and number 10, which would be appalling.
It's worth repeating that. So in the previous hour, we were joined in the studio by Tom Sharp, OBE, 27 years in the Royal Navy, a former commanding officer, commanded 4 different warships. Now, he knows his stuff. And I asked him, how could it be possible that we're still moored off the coast of Portsmouth? And he said that precise thing. The Royal Navy would have said, we need to go. We need to think ahead, and that was probably recommended by, he called it Deep Blue, the uniforms. But then it somehow got lost in Whitehall. It never got conveyed. I think that is scandalous. I think it's shameful, it's pathetic, and it shows just how much we are a laughingstock on the world stage.
Well, I mean, at the moment that one of the other problems is we've been hollowing out our armed forces. That's about to change. I mean, the defence budget is going up. It'll be 2.6% of our national wealth by 2027. I think then the taxpayers got to brace themselves for the extra cost of that. That'll cost an extra £5 billion. Well. But then people are going to be hit. This war is going to hit people in many ways. That Lee's just talked about the insurance costs. We've talked about the problems of getting ships through the Straits of Hormuz. Oil at the moment is now nearly $84 a barrel. That was $70 before the war started. If it goes to $100, you're looking at 2p extra on a litre at the pumps, or even up to 17p. So 2 weeks down the line, when those price rises hit, we can expect that petrol is going to cost an awful lot more.
OK, thank you very much, Nigel Nelson. Now, as we see the live pictures of Tel Aviv as the sun sets, but still to come next, completely affiliated to this story, welfare spending expected to rise by £18 billion next year alone to an eye-watering £333 billion this year. Now, that is 5 times the defence budget. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
the Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
Because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline.
Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos. What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is...
You're
the failure is...
deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to time. It's 4:27. You've me here, Martin Daubney, on GB News. Now, the welfare bill is bigger than ever under this Labour government, and it's only going to keep on growing and growing. Welfare spending is now expected to rise by an astonishing £18 billion to £333 billion this year alone, and it's going to get worse. It's forecast to hit £407 billion in just 4 years' time. And at the same time, Labour are being criticised for not spending enough on defence.
Yesterday, the Chancellor could have given more money to defence. Instead, she gave more money for welfare. Their priorities are all wrong, Mr. Speaker.
Not only did they cut the defence budget, they missed army recruitment targets every year for 14 years. They left morale in our armed forces at an all-time low, and our forces hollowed out. That's the words of Ben Wallace, the former Defence Secretary.
Well, I'm now joined in the studio by William Yarwood, who's the media campaign manager at the Taxpayers Alliance. Of course, I'm still with GB News' senior political commentator, Nigel Nelson. Now, William Yarwood, before we carry on, it's worth pointing out all those MPs gave themselves a 5% pay rise.
Yeah,
today.
I know.
And they buried that bad news under the cover of war. I digress. Welfare. Totally out of control.
Yeah.
It's getting worse and worse and worse. And the figures are eye-watering. £407 billion a year by the end of the decade.
Yeah, it's completely nauseating, Martin. I can't even conceptualise what £407 billion looks in front of you. And to put that into some context for you, that's the lifetime household taxes of over 318,000 households. Like 380,000 households gone in one fell swoop just to pay that benefits bill in 2030, 2031. And some of their increases are staggering as well. Disability benefits have the largest percentage increase at 44% over this forecast period. And I see nothing from any side of the political spectrum on dealing with this. I mean, I know Labour tried to do some level of welfare reform last year, but that was a measly £5 billion, and they couldn't even get their backbenchers to be on side with it. I think there needs to be such a radical rethinking of how we deal with this welfare budget, because all this government seems to do is throw more money at it rather than actually solve the problem itself.
Meanwhile, people are getting up for work in the morning, long Britain, and they're simply wondering, where does all my tax go? William, I spoke with you earlier on, and we're speaking at the moment about the astonishing ineptitude, the lack of money for defence, for our armed forces. We're seeing ships still moored off the coast of Portsmouth. In terms of the context, £407 billion, That's going to buy a lot of frigates.
Yeah, it would do. I mean, the welfare budget is almost 5 or 6 times bigger than the overall defence budget. And I think that in the current climate that we're in, Martin, the government should be looking more at actually taking some of this money away from the welfare budget and putting it into defence. But they're not going to do that. I mean, they've already, like I said earlier, they tried to reform welfare, failed miserably at it because their various backbenchers aren't not even willing to vote for, slight minor increases in welfare spending. And one thing I need to say this, Martin, is anybody who thinks this is sustainable, anybody who advocates for more welfare spending is not living in the real world, doesn't know the statistics, or just fundamentally doesn't care and doesn't mind if this country goes bankrupt. Because also, this is going to be people who actually we're leaving on the unemployment pile instead of getting them into work, getting them productive, improving their lives. But no, we're just thinking, you know what, let's just spend more money on welfare because that's the only lever we have to pull. And it's taxpayers who'll be putting up the bill for this. And we've seen via the OBR report yesterday and the spring statement, that the tax burden is going to be over 38% of overall GDP come the end of this forecast period. That is nauseating and it is quite scary. And no wonder people are thinking, why do I bother going to work? Why don't I just leave the country?
And when you look at the benefits bill, I believe it's going to be 11.2% of all GDP by the end of the decade. 11% of everything in the country going on benefits. Stick with us. Nigel Nelson, let's bring you in now. These two stories, I think, are intrinsically connected. We're spaffing billions on benefits, and we've got the smallest army since the Napoleonic era. The Navy is moored off the coast and can't even get to defend the sovereign island of Cyprus. And we have this languishing benefits bill. Here's an idea. Stop coughing out so many benefits. We could start with people who come here from overseas. That's about 15 billion quid a year. Choke all that off and start putting more soldiers out there. Start building more ships. It's a no-brainer.
Well, first of all, you've got to understand the benefits bill, that nearly half of it is made up of pensions and pensioner benefits. So when it comes down to working-age people, benefits have gone up, but they haven't gone up hugely. It's pensioners that have caused the big rise, 146 billion at the moment. And the problem we've got is there are fewer people who are working to actually support the growing number of pensioners we've got. So your really big area to deal with is what you do about pensions. And at the moment, nobody is prepared to look at the triple lock. If they did look at the...
You've neatly sidestepped the amount of people sat on their backsides on the dole.
Okay, well...
You've neatly sidestepped
well,
£17 billion a year to foreigners on university credit.
William mentioned the £5 billion that Rachel Reeves tried to save on disability benefits. The problem about that, and this is where I think Labour backbenchers were right, the problem was that Rachel Reeves was dressing it up as welfare reform when actually it was purely a way of actually grabbing a bit of money.
Well, that's the whole point of making cost savings.
Yeah, but you ought to find out the effect of the cost you're saving. So what is happening is Stephen Timms is carrying out a review of disability benefits. What you should at the end of that have is the people who really genuinely need them,
Nigel,
and then there will be a save. Then there can be a saving in the cash that goes out.
This country is going to sink faster than the Iranian Navy at this rate. We can't sustain this. How long can this madness go on for, William?
Genuinely, Martin, if the tax base continues to shrink and shrink, if more and more people leave the country and aren't able to pay into this system, I genuinely think that we could be seeing some genuine defaulting in maybe the mid-2030s, maybe early 2040s. And that's not a fun thing for me to say. And that's not going to be great, because I'm still going to be living in here. I'm still going to be a young man. And you know what? Many of my friends have just left this country now. They've gone to Australia, they've gone to New Zealand, because they can't deal with the amount of tax they pay. And also, they think, actually, what's my taxes getting me? Virtually nothing. This is such a large problem that it needs dealing with, and I see absolutely nothing. And I do agree with Nigel, just slightly on the triple lock point. I do agree that there needs to be some boldness around that. But I'll tell you what, I'm not seeing that from any of our political class at the moment, and it depresses me to no end.
William Yarwood, thank you very much. Taxpayers Alliance, superb as ever. Nigel Nelson, excellent. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Now, loads more still to come between now and 5 p.m, including Donald Trump threatens to halt trade with Spain over military base access. Will Donald Trump rain pain on Spain? That's next. But first is your latest news headlines with Tatiana Sanchez.
Martin, thank you. The top stories. America is winning without mercy. That was the update of America's Secretary of State for War, Pete Hegseth, this afternoon, adding that the US will have control of Iran's skies in under a week. Back at home, Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer said letting the US use UK bases and British jets shooting down drones in the Middle East is the special relationship in action, while hanging on to President Trump's latest words is not. US bombers are set to strike Iran from British bases soon, according to officials, with bombers expected to arrive at RAF Erfurt. Elsewhere, the UK is increasing its air defences at its base in Cyprus by deploying HMS Dragon. Reportedly, the ship, though, won't reach RAF Akrotiri for 2 weeks. And 3 men have been arrested under the National Security Act on suspicion of spying for China. The Metropolitan Police says the suspects, aged 39, 43 and 68, were arrested by counter-terrorism officers in London and Wales after being accused of assisting a foreign intelligence service. Those are the latest headlines for now. More from me in half an hour.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's a beautiful day for many of us, plenty of warm sunshine, not for all however. Parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland are generally cloudier with some spots of rain before it turns increasingly damp later as a weather front moves in. That weather front, a weak affair at first, only tending to thicken up the cloud through the evening across many parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. Patchy cloud into western parts of England and Wales by the end of the night. And elsewhere, under clear skies, lighter winds, while temperatures will fall away. Another chilly night in some shelter spots for central and southeastern England, and a few mist patches to wake up to, but it's milder towards the west and the north because of the thicker cloud, because it's a breezier start to the day, and we start the day with outbreaks of persistent rain, especially into western Scotland, but some patchy rain moving into the north and east of Scotland. Edinburgh most likely to start dry, albeit cloudy. Northern Ireland, outbreaks of rain most prolonged towards western areas. Belfast seeing the rain more on and off. But for much of England and Wales, it's a bright start once again. Yeah, a few early mist and fog patches once again. They'll clear through the morning. And we've got this sheet of cloud just ebbing into parts of Western England and Wales. It's a slow-moving feature, however, and that means it's going to stay damp across Northern Ireland into much of Scotland. As colder air starts to emerge later in the day, we'll see a few flakes of snow over the peaks of Scotland. But ahead of that, it's a warm day, even warmer compared with today, with temperatures reaching 19 Celsius across parts of central and southeastern England. Feeling colder, however, in the rain and behind the rain as this front slowly edges east and southeast on Thursday night. Friday, that front still with us, bringing a legacy of cloud and some showery rain across central areas. Saturday and Sunday, mostly dry, but not entirely sunny.
Thank you, Britain, for all of you who listen to GB News Radio.
Whether you're at home or on the go, you're making us Britain's news channel and Britain's radio station.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. In Staffordshire, the M6 northbound between Junction 14 and Junction 15 has a shed load spill, resulting in 3 of 4 lanes being closed and delays of around 2 hours. Conditions are expected to ease after 7 this evening. In Oxfordshire, congestion on the A34 northbound from the A423 near Kennington to the A44 is causing delays of about 30 minutes, which should improve after 7:30 tonight. Additionally, the A90 northbound at Inveraldy is partially blocked due to a vehicle fire. On the railways, Northern and TransPennine Express report major disruption around Bolton. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Welcome back. Time is 4:39. You're with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, the European Union's industry chief has said that Donald Trump's threats to Spain is a threat to the whole of the European Union after the US president warned that he would cut trade with Madrid over its refusal to allow the military in America to use its bases for those airstrikes on Iran. So, will Donald Trump rain pain on Spain? Let's now speak with a political scientist and the columnist, and that's Sergio Velasco. Sergio, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have your company. A lot of people today, Sergio, are saying that the socialist Prime Minister of Spain, Pedro Sanchez, has completely betrayed Donald Trump, and it could cost Spain very, very dearly. What's your take?
Well, thank you so much for having me. First of all, we have to think that Spain has a lot of dependency in technology and other sources from the United States, also from the gas. So we have to think that the decision of Pedro Sanchez has been more national motivated for the polls, because he has been losing the elections in the last two regional elections. And also we have to think that this decision could harm our industry, not only for olive oil, wine, and other industries that could harm a lot our economy. So this has been a terrible mistake by Pedro Sanchez, even if the Spaniards, the majority of them, they are against this war, but he has to think also for the international relations, and he has been doing this so badly in the past months with Donald Trump.
Sergio, it's worth pointing out that Pedro Sanchez, of course, is the same premier who granted the right to remain to 500,000 illegal immigrants, mostly from the continent of Africa, to stay in Spain. And now Donald Trump said very, very clearly, we're going to cut off all trade. We don't want anything to do with Spain. Spain has absolutely nothing that we need. So it's one thing for a prime minister to virtue signal his socialist intentions, but this could be extremely damaging to the entire Spanish economy.
That's completely right. He has been doing this. He is trying to always use the international figure to try to avoid his internal problems, like the corruption of his party, the alleged corruption of his family, in the polls of the national next election that he's losing points in every single poll that is being realized. So this is trying to avoid these problems. He's doing very smartly for the national point of view, because the majority of Spaniards reject this war, as it happened in 2003 with the Iraq war, and that's why the center-right, the PP, lost that election. But even doing this, he's trying to prioritize his national party before the national point of view, that is the Spaniards. So this is very dangerous. And also, one of the things that Trump has a clear point is that Spain in the last 10 or 15 years has been under the 2% of spending in the defense of GDP. They didn't reach 2% in any year, and they don't want to reach the 5%. So that's clearly another point that the Trump administration is not liking about Pedro Sanchez.
OK, Sergio Velasco, thank you very much for joining us on the show. Pleasure to have your company. Hope to see more of you on GB News. Thank you very much, my friend. Pleasure to have your company. Nigel Nelson, let's get back to the studio. I don't understand these kind of economic, self-flagellatory, clearly damaging gesture politic moments. Pedro Sanchez cares more about illegal immigrants than local people in Spain by allowing 500,000 of them to come in. It's still got one of the highest youth unemployment figures in all of the European Union. And the military base at Rota, a place I know well. My sister used to work in bars near there. She married a US Marine. I've been to this area. That a huge amount of money comes into the local economy from servicemen and women, a huge strategic interest. And Donald Trump could not only sever trade or hammer them with tariffs, he could say, do you know what? I'm going to make Spain pay up 5% of their GDP. This gesture politics could annihilate Spain's economy.
Well, I mean, in fact, America would probably suffer more than Spain would should they do it. I mean, only 4% of Spain's exports actually go to America. And I rather admire Pedro Sanchez. I mean, what he's saying is, look, Trump is a bully. I'm not prepared to be bullied. I hope that the EU give him backing.
Well, hang on. The military base in Rota has been there for decades.
Yes.
And they've agreed to that for decades. They've taken millions of dollars for the privilege for decades. It's strategically protected Spanish waters and the entire Mediterranean for decades. This is not a parasitic presence. It's a strategic support. And Pedro Sanchez, a socialist, hell-bent on destroying his country, has just gone to war with Donald Trump. It's a war he can't win.
But what he said is this is an unjustified, dangerous and illegal war, and he won't be part of it. Not so far away from Britain on Saturday. The other important point, he's always been consistent about wars. He's spoken out against
the state of Palestine.
He's spoken out against Russia's invasion of Ukraine. He's spoken out against Israel's invasion of Gaza. So he has been consistent about his attitude to wars like this.
Bringing this back to Britain, I think there's going to be a new world order after Iran. Spain are clearly going to be outside the ring. In fact, Portugal have just said, opportunistically, come to our military base in the Azores, and they will. They'll abandon Spain. They'll go to Portugal. Spain will get hammered. Portugal will end up winning. And what about Britain? After all the dust has settled on this, Britain is going to find itself well and truly outside the tent.
Well, I mean, we know that Trump is volatile. We know he changes his mind with the wind. It could well be that we'll all be the best of friends by this time next week. So I'm not too worried about what Trump is actually saying. I just think that for somebody with the position of the United States president, the most powerful man in the world, he was extremely insulting to Keir Starmer yesterday, and by extension, he was insulting to Britain.
OK. Well, thank you very much, Nigel Nelson. Coming up next, the ongoing inquiry into the systemic failings that allow Valdo Callaghan to murder 3 people in Nottingham continues. Will anyone be held to account? So shocking footage emerges that 2 years before the killings, Callaghan was begging to be arrested in London, but that didn't happen. That's next.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
What could you spend this quadrillion quid on, Sophie? What were the limitations, let's put it lightly?
The entire world, couldn't I, essentially?
Yeah. But on this gift receipt, what are you allowed to spend this amount on?
Well, I've only spent up to the balance. I've only spent up to the balance of £10 because that's what was meant to be on it. Yeah, so, and I think I wasn't going to spend any more. And obviously they know about it now, so.
Yeah, Sophie, you were at a local coffee shop, and what were you trying to buy with your gift card originally?
It was a matcha latte.
Matcha latte, right. And then all of a sudden someone said, oh, I think you're a quadrillionaire. Was that how it played out, Sophie?
To be honest, they didn't, well, the person that served me didn't notice. He said that he'd not done gift cards before, so wasn't sure. And then he got his colleague to come over. She just looked at it and went, oh, I've never seen that before. Cashed it off, gave me the receipt, and then it wasn't until while I was waiting for my drink, I was looking at the receipt myself. And then I clicked on and I was like, surely not.
Wow, I'm just looking at the strap below us now. I believe that's 15 zeros after 6-3, so that's a lot of money, Sophie. Do you think they're going to honour it and let you have unlimited coffees and muffins for life?
Well, I was on BBC Radio Nottingham on Monday morning, and they've not actually been in contact with me at all, 200 Degrees or Cafe Nero, because they've bought them out now. I've heard nothing from them. And then they've released a statement saying that it's been rectified. And they've also said in the statement that they gave me a receipt with the correct balance on.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's almost 10 to 5. You're with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, 3 innocent people were slaughtered in the Nottingham attacks, but today we're learning that the killer had actually turned up outside MI5 2 years earlier, asking to be arrested. That's right, body cam footage shows police speaking to Valdo Calacane outside the spy agency's headquarters back in 2021 before letting him simply waltz off in an Uber, despite having a history of disturbing behaviour and, of course, being diagnosed as a paranoid schizophrenic. Well, let's now speak with Nigel Nelson as we wait our guest to appear. Nigel Nelson, the inquiry into the killings by Valdo Calacane has been one of the most astonishing exposés of the litany of systemic failures. The police, the university, the mental health facilities in the area. And this footage that we're seeing, I think we can get it up on our screens, a full 2 years before the killings, Calacane simply turned up outside MI5, was repeatedly stabbing on the buzzer, demanding to be seen. Police walked up to him and they interviewed him and they simply let him go. Now, I put it to you, if this individual had been screened and background checked and all the pieces have been put together, this is yet another missed episode of keeping this psychopath off the streets before he went on to kill.
And this is why the inquiry must go through all the evidence to actually find out, well, what should have been done that wasn't done and the errors made so they can be dealt with in the future. Just on this particular thing, I mean, MI5 used to have a secret address. Most people didn't actually know where it was. Now you see it on television all the time. So MI5 is a sort of magnet for people who do this kind of thing. And the question would be, is it just another one of those people walking in off the street, just having a go, in which case then the police wouldn't know at that point that they were dealing with somebody who was potentially a future killer. So again, it's for the inquiry to actually come up with the recommendations and say, should something have been done at the time?
But at this point, he'd already attacked multiple students on the campus at Nottingham University. He'd already forced a woman to jump out of a first-floor window to break her spine. He'd already been classified as so violent, he was deemed a threat, but people didn't kick him off his course in case it triggered him. They didn't recommend him they didn't section him because he was black. And then this happened here, this footage, after all of that, this psychopath turns up at MI5, jabbing on the door button. Surely if they'd looked back over his record and thought, do you know what, this guy, he's clearly dangerous, he should be off our streets. If that had happened, those 3 people would still be alive.
Yes, absolutely right. And you can see the trail of mistakes that people made. The question, though, on this particular incident is, first of all, would MI5 have known? Probably not. They would have just said, oh, we've got another one out there trying to get in. Would the police have known instantly? I don't know. I mean, these are things for the inquiry to sort out. And if it means that in a situation like this, the police should make further investigations to prevent what happens in the future, then so be it.
But will anybody ever be held to account? You've been in the studio, or you've met the families.
Yes.
Like they're regulars on this show.
Who are incredibly courageous and incredibly dignified, and whenever you do meet them, you feel humbled in their presence.
But they're also incredibly well-resourced and they're incredibly intelligent. Dr. Sanjoy Kumar is a cardiologist. He understands the NHS. He understands the bravado, the bluster, the nonsense. I think the government's met their worst nightmare in these families, and I don't think they're going to stop until heads roll.
No, well, I mean, I think they should carry on, and that's certainly what they want. But the most important thing at the end of this process is that nothing will ever bring their loved ones back, and the tragedy stays with them for the rest of their lives. The important thing is to find ways of stopping this kind of thing happening again.
Totally agree on that. Thank you very much, Nigel Nelson. Now, still to come on the show today, yet more ritual humiliation for Britain. The Navy warship HMS Dragon will not reach Cyprus for another 2 weeks. It's still moored off the coast of Portsmouth when it should be off the coast of Cyprus. An astonishing failure. That's next on GB News.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's a beautiful day for many of us, plenty of warm sunshine, not for all however. Parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland are generally cloudier with some spots of rain before it turns increasingly damp later as a weather front moves in. That weather front, a weak affair at first, only tending to thicken up the cloud through the evening across many parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. Patchy cloud into western parts of England and Wales by the end of the night. And elsewhere, under clear skies, lighter winds, while temperatures will fall away. Another chilly night in some shelter spots for central and southeastern England, and a few mist patches to wake up to, but it's milder towards the west and the north because of the thicker cloud, because it's a breezier start to the day, and we start the day with outbreaks of persistent rain, especially into western Scotland, but some patchy rain moving into the north and east of Scotland. Edinburgh most likely to start dry, albeit cloudy. Northern Ireland, outbreaks of rain most prolonged towards western areas. Belfast seeing the rain more on and off. But for much of England and Wales, it's a bright start once again. Yeah, a few early mist and fog patches once again. They'll clear through the morning. And we've got this sheet of cloud just ebbing into parts of Western England and Wales. It's a slow-moving feature, however, and that means it's going to stay damp across Northern Ireland into much of Scotland. As colder air starts to emerge later in the day, we'll see a few flakes of snow over the peaks of Scotland. But ahead of that, it's a warm day, even warmer compared with today, with temperatures reaching 19 Celsius across parts of central and southeastern England. Feeling colder, however, in the rain and behind the rain as this front slowly edges east and southeast on Thursday night. Friday, that front still with us, bringing a legacy of cloud and some showery rain across central areas. Saturday and Sunday, mostly dry, but not entirely.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News each and every week.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. On the A90 northbound at Inveraldy, a vehicle fire is partly blocking the road, causing delays. In mid-Wales, the A470 is affected both ways near Rhyadr due to an accident, with local diversions in place to manage traffic. On the A34 northbound in Oxfordshire, expect approximately 30 minutes of congestion between the A423 near Kennington and the junction with the A44. Meanwhile, on the trains, Northern and TransPennine Express are reporting major disruption affecting services in the Bolton area. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
You could be the proud owner of a brand new Benevan 122. This very latest 2026 model comfortably sleeps 4, comes complete with built-in kitchen, compact washroom, and is worth over £67,000. But that's not all, as we'll also give you a further £25,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like in the coming year. For a chance to win a camper van and cash, text prize to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. message or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB20 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of May. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
I'm Michelle Dewberry. This is Jubes & Co. with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here. GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection. Tune in to GB News, anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Very, very good afternoon to you. It's 5 p.m. and welcome to the Martin Daubney Show here on GB News. We're broadcasting live across the UK. We've got all the very latest news, debate and analysis all the way through until 6 p.m. And here's what's coming up on today's show. The former head of the Royal Navy has turned his guns on Keir Starmer. He blasted Lord Nelson will be spinning in his grave as the PM's strategically inept failure to deploy Royal Navy warships to the Mediterranean to protect Cyprus. And that's as GB News understands that HMS Dragon will now not reach RAF Akrotiri for at least another 2 weeks. Is our rudderless government hold below the waterline?
Not happy with the UK either. This is not Winston Churchill that we're dealing with.
Yes, Donald Trump has ruled that Keir Starmer is no Churchill after our PM's disappointing decision to stop Trump using British air bases in Trump's darkest hour. Did Keir Starmer betray him and make the USA-UK special relationship a tragic casualty of the Iran war? And a controversial London mosque has held a candlelit vigil to mark its deep sorrow and heartbreak towards Iran's deceased Ayatollah, with similar events taking place in Manchester, Birmingham and Nottingham. Is it high time to close down radical mosques and jail or even deport any Islamists poisoning Britain? And the ongoing inquiry into the systemic failings that allowed Vaudo Calacane to murder 3 in Nottingham continues. And today we learned how the psychopath demanded to be arrested 2 years before he went on his killing spree outside the MI5 office there in central London. Here's the question: will anybody ever be held to account for this complete failure? It's been called the Royal Navy's biggest humiliation, an event that's turned Rule Britannia into a global laughingstock, a total failure to deploy any craft into the Mediterranean to protect Cyprus is an astonishing failure on every level, surely. How on earth could the whole world know? It was documented. You could see the pictures of the USA deploying its naval arsenal towards the Gulf of Persia. And yet we can't even get a boat from Portsmouth to Cyprus in the same time. In fact, HMS Dragon, as you'll see shortly on your screens, is still moored off the coast of Britain. France had to step in to defend our sovereign territory, helped by the Greeks. And thank you to those servicemen and women who did that. Meanwhile, ours are shorebound, utterly pointless, redundant, on the sidelines. Are they casualties, not of military failure, but a total political failure? Get in touch, gbnews.com/your say is the way to do so, or scan the QR codes on your screen now. But enough of me, here's your headlines with Tatiana Sanchez.
Martin, thank you. The top stories. The US Defense Secretary says a US submarine sank an Iranian warship in the Indian Ocean with a torpedo. Pete Hegseth didn't name the ship, but earlier the Sri Lankan Navy said around 140 people were missing after an Iranian ship, the Iris Denner, went down off the coast of Gaul. Mr Hegseth also said America is winning without mercy, adding the US will have control of Iran's skies in under a week. His comments come as the war in the Middle East is now in its 5th day. The Israeli military says it's launched a broad wave of strikes in both Lebanon and Iran, focusing on targeting Hezbollah infrastructure in Beirut and the Iranian terror regime in Tehran. Meanwhile, Sir Keir Starmer says letting the US use UK bases and British jets to shoot down drones in the Middle East is the special relationship in action, while hanging on to President Trump's latest words is not.
American planes are operating out of British bases. That is the special relationship in action. British jets are shooting down drones and missiles to protect American lives in the Middle East on our joint bases. That is the special relationship in action. Sharing intelligence every day to keep our people safe. That is the special relationship in action. Hanging on to President Trump's latest words is not the special relationship in action.
Reform UK leader Nigel Farage has reacted to Donald Trump's comments about the Prime Minister.
He's quite right to say he's no Churchill. There's a complete breakdown now in relationships between our government and the American administration. And, you know, Donald Trump does forgive people, but not quickly. And I suspect this breach is going to be unmendable.
The Iranian ambassador Sayed Ali Mousavi has been summoned by the UK government. Foreign Office Minister Chris Elmore has told the Commons. It says US bombers are set to strike Iran from British bases soon, according to officials, with bombers expected to arrive at RAF Fairford. The officials also said Iran will run out of ballistic missiles in the coming days if they continue to fire at the current rates. Throughout the briefing, Western officials were keen to stress that we should not rule anything out regarding possible action by US allies. Meanwhile, a government charter flight will be available this evening for British nationals wanting to leave Oman. The flight will depart the country's capital, Muscat, at 7 o'clock, and it's available for British nationals, their partners and children under the age of 18 with a valid travel document. The Prime Minister confirmed that more than 1,000 British nationals returned from the UAE yesterday, with 8 flights due to land back home today. More charter flights are also expected in the coming days. In other news, 3 men have been arrested on suspicion of spying for China. The Metropolitan Police said the suspects, aged 39, 43 and 68, were arrested by counter-terrorism officers in London and Wales after being accused of assisting a foreign intelligence service. One of the 3 arrested is David Taylor, the husband of a sitting Labour MP. Joni Reid MP said in a statement, "I've never seen anything to make me suspect my husband has broken any law. I'm not part of my husband's business activities and neither I nor my children are part of this investigation, and we should not be treated by media organisations as though we are." The Metropolitan Police says all 3 accused men remain in custody and searches have been carried out at the addresses where they were arrested. The government has placed an emergency brake on visas for nationals from 4 countries as Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood accused them of exploiting Britain's generosity to claim asylum. Study visas for nationals from Afghanistan, Cameroon, Myanmar and Sudan have been halted, as have work visas for Afghans. The government claims a growing number of people from these countries are using legal migration routes to then claim asylum in the UK. The Home Office described the suspension as an unprecedented step. Shabana Mahmood said Britain will always provide refuge to people fleeing war and persecution, but our visa system must not be abused. And in sport, Harry Maguire has been handed a 15-month suspended sentence by a Greek court over an incident in Mykonos more than 5 years ago. The Manchester United centre-back faced allegations of non-serious assault, resisting arrest and attempted bribery. He was convicted on all 3 counts. Maguire has always denied any wrongdoing, and it's understood his legal team will appeal against the guilty verdict. The player was arrested after a fight involving his family outside a bar on the Greek island in 2020. And those are the latest GB News headlines for now. More news in half an hour.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Here's a quick snapshot of the markets. The pound buying you $1.3379 and €1.1487. The price of gold, £3,884 and 97 pence per ounce. The FTSE 100 is at 10,575 points.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club. Proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Well, we've known for 6 weeks.
Now, breaking news this afternoon, the US bombers are now set to land at British air bases after all, any day now, to join attacks on Iran. But our British Navy warship, HMS Dragon, meanwhile, will not reach our Cyprus military base for at least another 2 weeks. Now, so much for Rule Britannia. This is more like Fool Britannia, because the Portsmouth-based Type 45 won't now set sail until next week. And then it will take at least another week for it to arrive on station. And this comes after the humiliation that the French, and even the Greek military, the military minnow of Greece, sent their support to Cyprus to help us before we even got there and showed up. Our GB News' South of England reporter Isabel Fekulag is in Portsmouth there, off the coast. HMS Dragon is now moored behind that foggy bank. But Isabel Fekulag, it's an astonishing state of affairs. The former head of the Royal Navy, Admiral Lord West, said Lord Nelson must be spinning in his grave.
Yeah, the HMS Dragon is slowly emerging from the fog behind me. It's been completely covered for the last hour or so, not in sight at all, and it certainly won't be in sight in Cyprus anytime soon either. It won't be leaving here in Portsmouth until early next week. At that point, it will take another 5 to 7 days to get to Cyprus, where it will meet the French and Greek vessels already there. But it's currently here in Portsmouth Harbour, in the Upper Harbour ammunition facility. Throughout the day, it's been loading up with missiles and weaponry and other ammunitions too, using the crane to load up those missiles. It's also been getting fueled up, and there's been crew on board working on the ship, some scaffolding on board too. It's currently in a maintenance period. It's been in a maintenance period. It's been here since December. It was getting ready to go for operations in the high north. Of course, now it's heading to the Mediterranean. When it's heading there exactly, we don't know, but it might be a couple of weeks before it arrives in Cyprus.
Just incredible. It really, really is an incredible state of affairs. Isabel Fekulag, thank you very much. We can see HMS Dragon behind you. It's a magnificent craft, but it should not be in Portsmouth. It should be in the Med, doing its job to shield Cyprus. Thank you very much for joining us, Isabel. Let's get back to Westminster, some political reaction. I'm delighted to be joined in the studio by the Reform MP and the Chief Whip, and that is Lee Anderson, as well as GB News' Chief Political Correspondent, Catherine Forster, and GB News' Senior Political Commentator, Nigel Nelson. Welcome to you all. Lee Anderson, let's start with you. I watch you watching that footage there. It just seems to me utterly incredible that HMS Dragon is still off the shore of Portsmouth. It's been described as the Royal Navy's biggest humiliation, made as a global laughingstock.
Well, it is a humiliation, Martin, and actually this is probably the only boat that Stormer has stopped crossing the channel. And let's be honest, we've known about this now for, Donald Trump were making noises 6 or 7 weeks ago about what he was going to do. He was telling the people of Iran to uprise. He was going to send his fleet over, which he has done. Everybody in the world's been tracking it on the internet. You can track it on your phone. And guess what? We've got this boat, this ship stuck in Portsmouth Harbour. And actually, when you think about it, when you go back to 1982, we got to the Falkland Islands quicker with a bigger force than this ship's getting to Cyprus. It's incredibly stupid of us. It shows weak leadership from Starmer. He's not a leader, he's a lawyer, and we are an international laughingstock.
It's worth pointing out as well, Lee Anderson, of course, that this is the consequence of decades of the lack of investment in our military. Previous Conservative government, of course, which you were a part of for a while. They've all taken their eye off the prize. They've all taken their eye off the ball. And here we are now just floundering, pointless, sidelined.
We always used to harp on, Martin, about having the best military in the world. And I still think we've got the best soldiers and sailors and airmen. I think the personnel is still brilliant. But you're quite right in what you said. It's been a lack of investment over successive governments. So we always seem to act in this country far too late. It's far too little, too late. We're always playing catch-up with our military. I think this now should be a wake-up call for the future to start spending proper amounts of money, 3% of GDP on our armed forces. It should be nothing less.
OK, stick with us, Lee. I want to get your take on Donald Trump's comments comparing Keir Starmer, beg your pardon, to Winston Churchill. But before that, let's get to you, Catherine Forster, for some political reaction. You were at PMQ today. I just thought, once again, it was just another nothing burger. Waste of time. A political class sort of fighting over, fripperies at the time where we are an international laughing stock. But what are Labour saying? Is there any excuse, any justification being put out for how HMS Dragon can be off the coast of Portsmouth when it should be off the coast of Cyprus?
Well, we were interrogating the Prime Minister's official spokesman after Prime Minister's questions, as you would expect. They rejected the assertion that they've been basically caught napping, and they were saying, look, we've been speaking closely to the United States. We have been putting resources into that area. Since the beginning of the year, they said jets, radar, they're talking about what the F-35 planes have been doing. They said that they've been bolstering our wider defensive capability, and they're saying we have extensive military capabilities in the region, moving more there as we speak. But look, I think it is a sign of the times, isn't it? Clearly, we were the second biggest NATO spender after the United States for a very long time. But now other European countries, many of them, have really, really woken up. Germany, in particular, has now overtaken us. And the Prime Minister, is standing there and he's saying, we're going to have to spend more and faster, as I said, at Munich. Well, I was also at Munich, where he said the same, and they came back, but they have not moved on their timetable of when they're going to get to 3%, let alone 3.5%, 5%. They've promised, along with defence-adjacent spending, by 2035. That was a pledge that the Prime Minister, other NATO allies, made back in The Hague at the NATO summit last summer. I was there as well. But for all the talk, all the rhetoric, the reality does not match it. And I think this is a reflection that we see today.
Lee Anderson, we heard yesterday at the spring statement the welfare spend will reach £407 billion per year by the end of this government. That's an incredible increase. That's 5 times the entire defence budget.
It's unbelievable, Martin. We're paying people to stay at home. We're spending, £1 billion a month on universal credit for people that weren't even born here. We've got an epidemic of mental illness. We've got an epidemic of people on PIP payments. Meanwhile, like you say, the amount of money we spend on our defence is minuscule in comparison to what we spend on our welfare budget. Priorities are all wrong in this country. We look pathetic. We look cowardly. And we used to have the strongest navy in the world. We were feared and respected all over this globe. Look at the things they've done in the past. It's been incredible. We built a British empire with our navy, and now we've got a boat stuck in Portsmouth dock. We can't even get it to Cyprus, and we've got France and Greece bailing us out. It's absolutely pathetic.
But Lee, nearly half the benefits budget is going on pensions and pension benefits. So are you suggesting that we actually drop pension amounts down or to pay for defence? Defence will cost us, if we're going to get to 2.6% by 2027, which is the plan, you're talking about £25 billion a year. So that money has got to come from somewhere.
Yeah, I'm not talking about reducing pensioners' money, Nigel, people like yourself and Chopper. That's never going to happen. But what we can do is we've got 6 or 7 million people in this country who are economically inactive. Let's get them back to work. Let's get them getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, working a shift, doing the hours, and paying some taxes, paying back into the coffers. We've got far too many people in this country swinging the lead. We're spending loads of money on people that weren't even born here on universal credit. Goodness knows what the PIP payment is for people that weren't even born in this country. We can't even get those figures. It runs into billions of pounds a year. Stop that money and spend it on our armed forces. It's dead simple, Nigel.
But the first thing you've got to do there is to have a review to see actually who deserves the money and who doesn't, which is what Sir Stephen Timms is doing at the moment, carrying out a review on disability on the basis that should save some money come the end of it. But first of all, let's find out who actually needs the money.
They've already tried to reduce the benefit bill in the budget last year. And what happened? The Labour backbenchers rebelled, and the U-turn once again. They daren't do it. They're frit.
Well, the Labour
Lee, it went up a lot when you were Conservatives. Stop winking at me.
It did, yeah. And the Conservatives were just as bad. We've got this epidemic, Catherine, of people being on PIP when they shouldn't be on PIP. The genuine ones that I see in my surgery that should be on PIP, they really struggle to get a claim in. We've got people coming from this country who's never worked a day in their life, probably in their own country. They come in here and they live in a life of Riley on benefits. People in this country have had enough of subsidising people from other countries and subsidising people that quite clearly have got no intentions of going to work.
Lee Anderson, let's get your opinion on the comments from Donald Trump, withering comments towards Keir Starmer, saying he's clearly no Winston Churchill, talking how disappointed he is in this entire incident. I wonder what your opinion is of this incident. I mean, on the one hand, it's a foreign power intervening in the way that people like you might complain when Barack Obama waded in about Brexit. But what is your opinion about the special relationship and Keir Starmer's position in that?
Well, it's in tatters at the moment, isn't it? I think Keir Starmer is, I think the only word you can describe him as at the moment is a coward on the international stage. You know, he's made a living of defending wrong-uns and bad people all his life. He never puts the British people at the top of his list. He never puts us first. He's an embarrassment, Martin. I'm embarrassed to walk into that place on a Wednesday afternoon to watch him at PMQs. It's shameful, and the sooner he's gone, the better. The only problem we've got is when he eventually does go, and I think it'll be at the end of this year, maybe just in conference season, is who do we replace him with?
And what's your take on this situation? Catherine Force, on the one hand, you know, Donald Trump says anything about anyone, and that's the unpredictable nature of him. But does he have a point? Are they concerned about all this in Whitehall, in Westminster? Are they concerned about Keir Starmer's reputation internationally? Because at the moment, he seems to be more concerned about upsetting the Ayatollah.
Well, look, they put an enormous amount of effort in, didn't they, into getting on good terms with Donald Trump. They rolled out the King, the state visits. They fell over themselves, and it worked very well until it didn't. But it seems that the Prime Minister, I mean, he stood up to Trump on Greenland. I mean, the whole of Europe did that. But he believes that this is an illegal war, and he is a former human rights lawyer. Kemi Badenoch's spokesman at lunchtime said that the government's contorting itself, around Lord Hermer's interpretation of international law. And I think that's a lot of it, is that he is first and foremost a lawyer. He believes that the war is illegal, and so he is saying no. I don't think they are that concerned, in that there is plenty of people in this country who do not like Donald Trump, don't like the optics of a British Prime Minister being bossed around and told what to do by another leader. And so they think with some people this will probably benefit them.
Lee Anderson, when you think back to that "we will fight them on the beaches" speech, you know, you got Winston Churchill there. What do you think Keir Starmer would say? We will use international treaties against them on the beaches?
Listen, Martin, nobody lies awake in my constituency if actually worrying about international law. And if that man, who we see on the screen now, Sir Winston Churchill, had got the law book out, we'd all be speaking German now.
Isn't that the point? That we hear a lot about Lord Hermer. He was in the gallery the other day when Keir Starmer was resolutely pointing out for about the 55th time, we weren't on the offensive against Iran at all. Like, who's he trying to pander to here?
Well, I mean, just on Winston Churchill, bear in mind, he was instrumental in getting the European Convention of Human Rights.
I wonder
well, you know that to be true. You know that
they
to
were
be
different
true.
times, Nigel. We just come out of the Second World War.
Exactly, but it was somebody who actually cared about international law post the Second World War. When it comes down to President Trump's comments, it isn't very patriotic to side with a foreign leader who slags off our country. I mean, certainly President Trump was being totally insulting last night. No respectable foreign leader would do that. Only President Trump does. And as far as the special relationship goes, I mean, there's a question about whether it really exists at all. That certainly, when I was a foreign correspondent based in America, we talked about the special relationship, the Americans didn't. And if the Americans ever did, it was just to make us feel better.
In their hour of need, Nigel, when the Americans needed our help, we refused it. And again, Sir Keir Starmer's U-turned on another major issue, eventually been dragged kicking and screaming to allow the Americans to use our air bases. It's shameful, it's disgusting. And they've known for weeks what's going to be happening in Iran. Trump's warned everybody in the world what's going to happen. And at some stage, Keir Starmer must have made a decision whether or not to help these people, whether or not to help the Americans, and he's turned his back on them. It's shameful.
But then he's got the lesson of Iraq behind him when there are so many similarities with the war that's being fought in Iran.
Well, this isn't
what similarities?
It is not different. In Iran, you had a leader who was murdering his own people, the same thing as in Iraq.
Yeah, but they invaded Kuwait.
No, I'm talking about the second war. That was the first war under John Major, which was only to liberate Kuwait, not to actually invade Iraq. That the first President Bush stopped at the Iraqi border once Kuwait was liberated.
What do you think Keir Starmer would have done about Saddam Hussein? Sent him from Quality Street?
Well, I mean, the whole...
They're his favourite tweets. That's the point. Look, tyrants don't care about international law.
No,
tyrants don't care about the rules that human rights lawyers play by. The Ayatollah never cared. For 47 years, none of them ever cared. They massacred their own people. We're stymied by rules that the opposition doesn't play by.
But the whole point is you've got to actually plan for what comes afterwards. Yeah, the world is better off without Saddam Hussein. The world is better off without the Ayatollah. It's what happens next. And what happened next in Iraq was that Islamic State moved into the power vacuum we created, and there were more problems after that.
And that's what the Prime Minister's saying, because he said people are very worried about the potential for escalation. We don't know what the American plan is. They say they don't want to put boots on the ground. How do you change a regime? They've already putting the son in charge. We don't know what follows this. We don't know how bad it's going to get, and we don't know how much it's going to cost us all in our pockets either.
OK, great. We're going to leave it there. Nigel Nelson, Catherine Forster, Lee Anderson, thank you very, very much indeed. A spirited debate. Now, coming up next, the ongoing inquiry into the systemic failings that allowed Valdo Callaghan to murder 3 in Nottingham continues. But here's the big question. Will anybody be held to account after this shocking footage turned up 2 years ago? Callaghan begging to be arrested outside MI5. That's next on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
It's 5:28. Welcome back. You're with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, 3 innocent people were murdered in the Nottingham attacks, but today we're learning that the killer, Vaudo Calacane, had actually turned up outside MI5 2 years ago, asking to be arrested. Bodycam footage you can see on your screens now show police speaking to Vaudo Calacane outside the Spy Initiative's headquarters in May 2021 before letting him simply wander off and get into an Uber, despite having a history of disturbing behaviour. I'm delighted now to be joined by Dr Sanjoy Kumar, who of course is the father of Grace O'Malley Kumar. Dr Sanjoy, it's always a pleasure to have your company. Every time you come on the show, another shocking revelation appears about a missed opportunity to take this monster off the streets before tragedy struck you and your family. This footage, the latest insult.
I just couldn't actually get over it. There is a man here who has actually turned up all the way from Nottingham. It's a hot summer's day, Martin, and he's wearing a black anorak on one of the hottest days on record, apparently, and the officers don't find that suspicious. And on top of that, if you do tell an officer that I'm getting an Uber, to ask where are you getting the Uber from, or if they've done their PNC checks, they would have known he's from Nottingham. Did they seriously think that he was getting an Uber to Nottingham from where he was? I think, City of London police, who are known to be one of the best police services, for them to have this kind of shoddy questioning of someone who's outside a place of interest is really quite shocking for our national security.
And when you learn previous evidence of him terrifying a student so greatly on the campus of Nottingham, she jumped out of a window and broke her spine. You heard of him terrorising former housemates. And we learned before that they were simply too afraid of appearing racist to section him because he was a black man. So many excuses, so many pieces of evidence missed. And this latest one, surely, if they just double-checked backwards, they'd have realised this guy's a nutter. He needs to be off the streets.
Martin, you're so right. I mean, let me just tell you, today we saw shocking footage of the body cam worn on by an officer on the 3rd of September 2021 when he kicked off. When he was out there, he was being attended to by a psychiatrist to be sectioned with a psychiatric nurse, 4 police officers, 3 of whom were women. So he basically decided to put his glasses down and he aimed himself at the male officer and said, right, you and me, let's kind of go for it. And it started punching him, started laying into him when the female police officers had to pepper spray him and then they had to taser him, right? All of this kind of stuff, which I think it's shocking that it's acceptable by police officers to think that in their line of duty they have to be assaulted. This shouldn't happen. We all have enormous amounts of respect for police officers. This is not part of their duty. And essentially, here we are. When they have completed the case, look at the dates. They charge Calacane on the 9th of May, 2022. And then they set a court date for September 2022. Now, if you're a senior police officer, you'd have thought, you've assaulted one of my lads. I tell you what, I'm going to fast track you. You're going to be behind bars in a week. I'll put you in front of a magistrate in a week so that you can make an example of a man like him, saying you cannot assault police officers who come there to assess healthcare workers. You can't do that. Make an example of the man. That's what should have happened in the first place. And then to make a point further, the psychiatrist who was there that we heard openly in the inquiry today, Dr. Ben Lomas, a psychiatrist, he said to the officers, I'll give you a statement about what I saw, but I'm not going to give you his diagnosis. Now, this doctor clearly needs to be reminded that when it's about the greater good of the public, you are meant to breach confidentiality. This guy needs to go back and do all of his courses again, all right? You assist the police and you breach confidentiality. So there were so many holes today. and also putting up dangerous markers. Can I say to every policeman who may be watching your program, Martin, if you turn up to a shout, as they call it, where there is a dangerous, violent schizophrenic, you charge them first and you take them to hospital afterwards. I'm saying that as a doctor. What you don't do is think that you just don't, you let them go off somewhere nice and pleasant into a nice safe room, you get them charged. When I worked with the Met, that's what we did. You charged people first and then you let the process. Now, this isn't for everyone who's suffering a mental health disorder. This is for violent mental health criminals. That's what you do to every officer. They should understand their powers.
Dr. Sanjoy, can I ask you a quick question? And it's a difficult one. It's like you're seeing all this evidence presented to you while your daughter was still alive. Everything you're seeing happened prior to that terrible, terrible day which removed your beautiful daughter from your life forever. Yes. When you see that monster alive, when you see what he did then, and you know what he went on to do, how does that make you feel to see in real time disasters that could have averted your disaster?
Can I even find the words for you, Martin? I can't, as hopefully a half-articulate man, I cannot find the words and the heartbreak to tell you how any father would feel in my position today. I actually don't have the words. I'm gobsmacked when I look back at this and think how preventable this was. It was preventable at every juncture, every incident, every crossing with every authority. This could have been avoided. I really don't have the words of heartbreak for you. I wish I was more articulate. I'm so heartbroken, I just don't have the words for you.
Dr. Sanjoy Kumar, I'm sorry to even have to ask that question, but I just think that until people realise the systemic failure and what it's done to you and others, I don't think there's any route forward. Thanks for joining us. As ever, I sincerely cherish your opinion, and I hope to see you soon and go for a pint with you. You're a mate. Dr. Sanjoy Kumar, love to your family again. As ever, thank you. Let's get to your headlines with Tatiana Sanchez.
Martin, thank you. The top stories today. America is winning without mercy. That was the update of America's Secretary of State for War, Pete Hegseth, this afternoon, adding that the US will have control of Iran's skies in under a week. Back at home, Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer said letting the UK use UK bases and British jets to shoot down drones in the Middle East is the special relationship in action, while hanging on the President Trump's latest words is not. US bombers are set to strike Iran from British bases soon, according to officials. The bombers are expected to arrive at RAF Fairford. Elsewhere, the UK is increasing its air defences at its base in Cyprus by deploying HMS Dragon. Reportedly, the ship won't reach RAF Akrotiri for 2 weeks. And 3 men have been arrested under the National Security Act on suspicion of spying for China. The Metropolitan Police says the suspects aged 39, 43 and 68 were arrested by counter-terrorism officers in London and Wales after being accused of assisting a foreign intelligence service. Those are the latest headlines for now. More at 6 o'clock.
For all the latest from GB News whilst you're on the go, get the GB News app. Scan the QR code now to download or visit gbnews.com/app.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's a beautiful day for many of us, plenty of warm sunshine, not for all however. Parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland are generally cloudier with some spots of rain before it turns increasingly damp later as a weather front moves in. That weather front, a weak affair at first, only tending to thicken up the cloud through the evening across many parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. Patchy cloud into western parts of England and Wales by the end of the night. And elsewhere, under clear skies, lighter winds, while temperatures will fall away. Another chilly night in some shelter spots for central and southeastern England, and a few mist patches to wake up to, but it's milder towards the west and the north because of the thicker cloud, because it's a breezier start to the day, and we start the day with outbreaks of persistent rain especially into western Scotland, but some patchy rain moving into the north and east of Scotland. Edinburgh most likely to start dry, albeit cloudy. Northern Ireland, outbreaks of rain, most prolonged towards western areas. Belfast seeing the rain more on and off. But for much of England and Wales, it's a bright start once again. Yeah, a few early mist and fog patches once again. They'll clear through the morning. And we've got this sheet of cloud just ebbing into parts of Western England and Wales. It's a slow-moving feature, however, and that means it's going to stay damp across Northern Ireland into much of Scotland. As colder air starts to emerge later in the day, we'll see a few flakes of snow over the peaks of Scotland. But ahead of that, it's a warm day, even warmer compared with today, with temperatures reaching 19 Celsius across parts of central and southeastern England. Feeling colder, however, in the rain and behind the rain as this front slowly edges east and southeast on Thursday night. Friday, that front's still with us, bringing a legacy of cloud and some showery rain across central areas. Saturday and Sunday, mostly dry, but not entirely sunny.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power?
Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber.
Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics.
We'll see where this ruling takes us.
These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back. Your time is 20 to 6 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, the British Navy warship HMS Dragon will not reach our Cyprus military base for at least another 2 weeks. Well, so much for Rule Britannia. This is more like Full Britannia. Well, let's now speak to the Labour MP for Hales Owen, Alex Ballinger. Alex, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have your company. Alex, the sight of HMS Dragon floating off the coast of Portsmouth is almost a metaphor for this government. Anchored to the spot, impotent, unable to act. Today, Lord Nelson will be spinning in his grave, and many people feeling this Labour government sinking fast.
Well, I think it's more of a metaphor for underfunding over 14 years by the Conservatives, Martin. The reason we have a shortage of naval ships, destroyers and frigates is because they drastically reduced our defence spending over that time. And we are increasing our defence spending up to 2.6% of GDP. Kemi Badenoch was wrong at PMQs, by the way, today when she said defence spending was not going up this year. It is going up. And we have really increased the amount of naval capacity that the UK has. Now, in the case of Cyprus...
Alex, you can't blame the Conservatives for failing to deploy HMS Dragon 2 or 3 weeks ago. The whole world has known there's been the biggest amassing of naval arsenal into the Gulf for at least 6 weeks. Come on, this is the boat that Keir Starmer has once again stopped. He's actually stopped a boat getting over the channel, but the trouble is, it's one of our own.
I'm blaming the Conservatives for the poor state of our Navy at the moment that we're rebuilding. What I will say is on air defence of Cyprus, which you're right is a vital issue, we have deployed, before this crisis came up in anticipation of the crisis, extra ground-based air defence. We deployed another squadron of F-35s. We've been working with our allies that do have ships in the Mediterranean. So there was a large increase of air defence capability in the region. Unfortunately, one drone appears to be launched by Hezbollah got through. That does sometimes take place, which is why we further reinforced it. We've sent 2 extra Wildcat helicopters, and the air defence destroyer HMS Dragon will be going out as soon as it's able to.
Alex, I was joined in the studio at 3 o'clock by Tom Sharp, OBE, 27 years, a Royal Navy officer, commander of 4 different warships, and he was ashamed of what our Navy has become, and you can't bang on about the Tories anymore. You've been in power for long enough to know you could have sent this ship to Cyprus
How long does it take
weeks
to build
ago.
a ship? Martin. It's not something we could do in 18 months.
HMS Dragon could and should have been deployed to Cyprus weeks ago. Any fool on the planet could see this coming. Why couldn't the Labour government?
So as I said, Martin, we deployed ground-based air defence. We deployed an extra squadron of F-35 fighters. We're now deploying Wildcat helicopters. And there is a lot of military capacity in the Mediterranean. There's an entire US fleet who are our allies, who we're working with, who are conducting air defence operations in the region as well. Yes, it is important that we have naval capability, and that's why we have redeployed Dragon. HMS Dragon, by the way, it's taking a bit longer because it's being retrofitted.
By the time it gets there, the war might be over. It's like Lord Nelson turned up to Trafalgar a week late.
Well, we have lots of other things in the region that are conducting that proper air defence capability.
Are you satisfied, as a patriot, as a former serviceman yourself, that this is a robust and sensible deployment of resources? Come on, be honest.
So I am not satisfied with the state of our armed forces at the moment. I think that is something that most of us can agree with. I do not think we should have an army that has reached the smallest size since the Napoleonic era. I don't think we should have so many naval ships that have been decommissioned over the years because we haven't built new Navy ships at the speed and pace that we need to. And I think we need to be developing new technology to help us deal with the threat from drones. Now, all of those things that I've outlined as problems, Martin, are things that the Labour government is addressing through the SDR and through our plan to increase defence spending. Now, we are looking at new technology to tackle air.
A quick point, if I may. The welfare budget is 5 times the defence budget, and it's ballooning to 11.2% of GDP by the end of the decade. 407 billion quid. Stop some benefits, build some ships, get some soldiers on the ground, make a decision that's good for the country.
So that welfare budget, of course, includes pensions as well as other issues. But we are increasing defence spending. It's going up to 2.6%, the highest it's been since the last Labour government in 2010. And that is enabling us to build more ships, to pay our soldiers and airmen and sailors more. And frankly, that's good for morale. And for the first time in many years, we're seeing recruitment ahead of people leaving the forces. Now, that is because our armed forces have confidence in what the Labour government is doing, and they want to join and they want to serve, just as I did 10 years ago.
Alex Banninger, thank you very much for joining us. Always a pleasure. Labour MP for Halesowen, thank you for your time today, sir. Thank you. Now, coming up next.
So, we've done the last one. The last one is step, step, cha, cha, cha. We have our New Yorker. 2, 3, cha, cha, cha.
Yes, MPs are facing a backlash after dancing in Parliament, whilst tensions in the Middle East continue to rise. This is next on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Well, I think this is a symptom of a larger issue. We do have a problem in the UK. It's not as severe as Germany. I think in Germany, they're saying workers take about 15 days a year.
Wow.
Whereas in the UK, it's about 4. And that's the private sector. In the public sector, if we were to focus on that, they see up to about 10 days, etc., per worker. So we're losing a lot of time here, and there's a disparity. So when we say the UK actually isn't as bad as Germany, we are bad in certain respects, our public sector. Realistically, we do need to crack down on it, and it will only be made even more hard, or the system will be even even more abused, just because in the Employment Rights Act, we are seeing that statutory sick pay, before you had to wait like 3 days in employment, now it's from day one. So it's a minor change, which will still see the same results. But again, we're making it that much easier for people to abuse the system. We already have very generous welfare payments as well. And it's part of a whole kind of like worklessness culture that we're developing here in the UK.
Reese, let's bring you in at this stage. Do you think we need to ban paid sick leave in the UK?
I mean, I'm with the Germans on this one, Ellie. As a small business owner, I think roll it out. I think there's now this common culture where calling in sick becomes the normal, where let's go back to, you know, when it was a last resort. I think that we see this common misconception as well of, can I work from home today? As if, you know, we can work at 40, 50% occupancy from home rather than coming into the office and completing a full shift.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Well, debate time is 5:49. This is Martin Daubney on GB News. Now, vigils have been held at several mosques across the UK for Iran's former supreme leader, the deceased Ayatollah Khamenei, a man many critics say had British blood on his hands. Now, at one North London centre, mourners gathered around candidate photos of the Ayatollah as one voice was heard declaring, "We will obey you, Khamenei." Well, let's now speak with the Imam and the Islamic scholar, Dr. Taj Hagi. Dr. Taj, welcome to the show. A pleasure to have your company. Many people watching this will just be astonished to learn that there are candidate vigils for an Ayatollah, a dictator, who massacred tens, if not hundreds of thousands of his own people, hang gay people, hung women for refusing to wear the hijab. How on earth can this man be worshipped on British soil?
Well, clearly, this is a foolish and insensitive thing, but I think we need to point out that these Muslims who venerate and mourn Ayatollah Khamenei, these are not the mainstream. They are the 10% minority of the Shia community. So 90% of the Muslims in the UK are Sunni. So they don't revere and laud this slain Shia leader at all. But I think even for the 10% of Muslims who are, up to 10% of Muslims who are Shia, I think it's important that we should need to call them out. This is, they are being insensitive, they are being foolish, and one could even say they are being unpatriotic for doing what they're doing currently. And by the way, all of these student groups that are having vigils for him at various universities, these are again all of them are from the Shia minority. None of them are from the Sunni majority.
Dr. Haj, I need to ask you an important question. You know, we can call them out all we like, but they won't make a damn piece of difference. Is it time to arrest them, imprison them, or even deport them?
Well, I mean, I think we should, if there's a credible charge, and of course we should bring them to book. I mean, so what the point that is currently is there a law against someone wanting to have a vigil for some idiot, foolish dictator? I'm not sure there is, but if there is even something, yes, we should certainly bring them to book. I myself, as a British Muslim, I feel it's greatly unpatriotic for them to be doing this, and we should be, as you say, calling them out, but more importantly, maybe even take some firmer action. Now, for example, the action could be taken at university level where these groups are operating. And so it's incumbent on all the university authorities to take some measures. They could rusticate them, you could expel them, they could suspend them from the courses. So that type of action, I think, would be far, far more effective than just jailing people.
Dr. Hodge, back to the mosques, away from the universities. The mosques in question, if they allow this kind of thing to go on, what about closing down the mosques?
Well, absolutely. I think it's important. For example, most mosques, there's about 2,000 odd mosques in the UK. Most mosques are registered with the Charity Commission. And so clearly, if they are in breach of any UK law. In this particular case, venerating a fallen dictator, then clearly the Charity Commission should take steps to close down these institutions. So I'm all in favour of that, and the sooner we can do that, the better.
OK, thank you very much for your company. It's always appreciated. That's Dr. Taj Hargin, our spokesman, of course it's a man, for the Islamic Centre of England, has insisted it focuses on religious education, on community services only, and does not in any way endorse extremism or criminal activity. Quick word from you, Nigel Nelson. It's time to shut these mosques down. It's a disgrace.
No, but I think that Taj made the point that what was happening was unpatriotic, foolish and insensitive, but a candlelit vigil is not against the law. It's not inciting violence, so no.
OK, Nigel Nelson, we'll leave you there. It just strikes me as incredible that we pussyfoot around. If people doing the same from the far right, they'd be banged up before the sunset, and we seem to pussyfoot around like anybody's business. Well, that's enough from me. Up next, of course, it's 6 p.m, and that means only one thing. It's Jubes & Co, and let's now speak with the queen of primetime debate. Jubes, what's on your menu?
Well, I don't pussyfoot around, I can assure you of that. Martin Daubney, not on Jubes & Co. We've got loads that we need to discuss tonight. I want to look at the Strait of Hormuz. Do you even know what that is? No, it's not a straight line of Hormuz, no. It's a very narrow shipping line, and it has the potential to hugely impact life here on the streets of Britain. We need to discuss that. Also, fresh from the pavements of Gorton and Denton, Matt Goodwin returns. I want to look at this whole thing when it comes to the Green Party now leapfrogging Labour. What on earth does all of this mean for the future of British politics? I'll see you all in just a second.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's a beautiful day for many of us, plenty of warm sunshine, not for all however. Parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland are generally cloudier with some spots of rain before it turns increasingly damp later as a weather front moves in. That weather front, a weak affair at first, only tending to thicken up the cloud through the evening across many parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. Patchy cloud into western parts of England and Wales by the end of the night. And elsewhere, under clear skies, lighter winds, while temperatures will fall away. Another chilly night in some shelter spots for central and southeastern England, and a few mist patches to wake up to, but it's milder towards the west and the north because of the thicker cloud, because it's a breezier start to the day, and we start the day with outbreaks of persistent rain, especially into western Scotland, but some patchy rain moving into the north and east of Scotland. Edinburgh most likely to start dry, albeit cloudy. Northern Ireland, outbreaks of rain most prolonged towards western areas. Belfast seeing the rain more on and off. But for much of England and Wales, it's a bright start once again. Yeah, a few early mist and fog patches once again. They'll clear through the morning. And we've got this sheet of cloud just ebbing into parts of Western England and Wales. It's a slow-moving feature, however, and that means it's going to stay damp across Northern Ireland into much of Scotland. As colder air starts to emerge later in the day, we'll see a few flakes of snow over the peaks of Scotland. But ahead of that, it's a warm day, even warmer compared with today, with temperatures reaching 19 Celsius across parts of central and southeastern England. Feeling colder, however, in the rain and behind the rain as this front slowly edges east and southeast on Thursday night. Friday, that front's still with us, bringing a legacy of cloud and some showery rain across central areas. Saturday and Sunday, mostly dry, but not entirely.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you for making us Britain's #1 news channel. Together, we have built something truly extraordinary.
Good evening. This is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. On the A82 at Fort Augustus, a broken-down vehicle is currently partially blocking the road, causing minor delays. In Wales, the A470 at Rhyadr has an accident with local diversions now in place to manage traffic flow. In Greater Manchester, the A663 northbound between the M60 junction and the A669 is experiencing slow traffic due to heavy congestion. Additionally, on the trains, both Northern and TransPennine Express are reporting major operational disruption in the Bolton area, significantly affecting service schedules. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
A camper van and cash could be yours in our very latest Great British Giveaway. You could be driving away in this brand new Benavan 122. This 2026 model, worth over £67,000, comes with all of the mod cons you'd expect. And that's not all, as you'll also get an incredible £25,000 in tax-free cash to boost your bank account this year. For a chance to win a camper van and cash, text prize to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB20 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of May. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that, because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
Needs to stop. You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.